Oh, it's very difficult to get this bloody thing set up. Yeah, stuff some blue tack in there as well. Nothing wrong with that, as long as it works. Just try to get this balanced. Let's just say, well, I'll just try and get the camera on the gooseneck. Gooseneck. Oh, no, it's got nothing to do with Top Gun. Goose. It's this bloody gooseneck hand-free. Let's go in that way. Oh, it's going that way. It's slipping. I'll get there. Just figuring it out. Which, must say, is taxing my nerve. Let's push that in there. Let's get this bloody thing jammed in. Ta-da! It's done. Okay. I have to say, pre-listen to Top Gun 2. So far with the opening credits, I've got to rewire my basic 8-channel output from there over to here, and got some DB25 connectors. I've got some bit thicker core cable, typical, you know, for like wiring DB25 connectors, because I basically used a cheap years ago DB25 connector that goes onto a computer. So it's I think it was a male or female, I can't remember which bloody ends. Anyway, it basically went to a computer, but the wiring was a little bit more thin, so I'm just gonna get a different lead, which is cheap, none of this snake oil garbage. So it's good quality cable. It's shielded as well, just like the other cable, which is also shielded, but the cabling is a little bit too thin, so it's a little bit flimsy, meaning it's a little bit fragile. And I've had it for many years now, but the cable is getting a little bit jaded. And keeping this up and running just for basic 8-channel or 6-channel or 4-channel Dolby stereo, I have to keep going behind a rack and doing maintenance just to keep that lead up and running. Otherwise, my THX cinema will be offline. So it's quite a lot of effort to just keep things going. And this is the same thing that goes on in cinemas. Not that I'm really at liberty to tell anyone that what goes on, but I don't really give a damn, because that was 34 years ago. But normal operations for projectionists are not just going around doing movie showing. Oh no, crikey. You go around doing anything, maybe like tightening down the seat armrests. My seats make a little rattle sometimes, so I occasionally do a little maintenance on it. Or you repairing or fixing a light in the cinema. You might be fixing some lights, you know, and you get more training going through that, so you get a bit more versed in electricals and such. And every other projectionist is different. Some projectionists, they like collecting posters. Other projectionists like talking about voltage levels, ampage and voltage levels of xenon lamp, and you know how that operates and how much ampage it needs, how much voltage it needs, and so on. And you know, and talk about maybe, wow, I just worked on a projector that used carbon arc, and I've never, because all the projectors that I've worked on through at UCI Cinemas and then to Warner Brothers were xenon. So I think there was only a local cinema in this area in the in the area that was quite a few miles away. Uh, Not sure if it's there anymore, but it used to run carbon arc. Even even though when most other cinemas have adapted to or adopted xenon, but up to many years before xenon, carbon arc, that's a rod, and the two things come together, and it's just like when you do arc welding and you got to wear a face, you know, because it's extremely bright and would damage your eyes. Those were the things that were being used, and they have a length which only burns for so long, and then you just change the rod. It's not a big deal, and then you strike the arc, and yeah, project your image. I guess it would also have other issues like, mate, I'm not sure with flicker or anything or any other color artifacts, or I don't know, because I've never had experience with carbon arc. I only worked with xenon, and knowing xenon lamps can be extremely dangerous and could potentially explode in your face if you're, you know, so you got to wear face guard shield, you got to wear body armor, because if those things explode, there'll be glass coming out at an incredible fast speed, and it will do a lot of damage. So I've seen what happens when, or the mess after a xenon lamp has exploded in a lamp house. That was at UCI, and it's very rare because I think there's all the xenon lamps were all brand new at the time, but one obviously got to a point and totally exploded. And the mess it made inside the lamp house was like a whole bag of sugar had been emptied out in the lamp house. It was like a mess. You got to get in with a vacuum, a special type of vacuum cleaner, not really a special, but a vacuum cleaner specifically only used to cleaning out. So that vacuum would be used for when a xenon lamp explodes and makes a mess inside. You got to suck it all out, and then you got to empty it obviously into a safety bag, and then you got to vacuum around a little bit more to make sure you get around all the gaps and everything to get all the residue of glass out, and then you can fit in the new xenon lamp. And that process takes hours, and then you got to test, and you know, because you got to think, did, you know, why did it explode, you know? And golden rule is never ever open a lamp house while the lamp is running, because the temperature is so hot inside, and the temperature out here going in, you'll change the ambient, you'll change the temperature, and would potentially cause the xenon to explode suddenly in your face without warning. Bam! Never ever open a lamp house on a xenon lamp. With a carbon arc, it's okay, because it's not going to explode in your face, because the xenon is under pressure. It's as far as I can remember when learning theory and projection, I'll get to the movie in a moment, so this is just a warm-up. There was learning theory and inert gases and all that, and thinking, I just want to get on and show me how to lace up and run movies, you know. But you got to learn from the chief, and you got to learn all the theory, practice, everything from electricals, inert gases, to different sound formatting, including ambisonics, which was also mentioned in the lecturing in the main projection booth. That would be booth box number 5, which was the main office for projection in the UCI cinema. Projection 5 was the main office, which goes down a long corridor to projection room number 6, the two main large projection rooms. And then the smaller screens, 1 and 4, are over this side, and then 7 and 10 are over on this side. So you, as you go in, You go down a corridor that way, and then go down a corridor that way to the corridor that way to screen 1, 4 to then screen 5, and then that way to screen 6 through to screen 7 to 10. And then you go into different other doors that go into the projection room for 7 and screen 7 and 8. Where you walk up a few steps, and then you got a projector over there, a projector over there. Cake platter, Dolby processor. And there's also a slide projector that did basic advertisements, you know, which looked pretty cool at the time. Looked pretty cool. It's a shame that, you know, the cinema's not the same anymore because it's gone through change of hand. It went from CIC, Paramount, Universal Cinemas over to eventually in the 2000s to Empire Cinemas that frankly I think ran even the Empire Leicester Square into the bloody ground. And then it's now changed hands because they sold it and to Cineworld, and now Cineworld are going to go into they're going to crash and burn eventually in the UK. It's inevitable. So for all I know, Tower Park, which is now a 12-plex cinema, because originally it was 10, and they built on top of the roof with £7 million, I think. They built 6 more screens that are called boothless because they're just like home cinema. They got a projector in a box fitted on the wall, on the ceiling. That isn't cinema. That's home cinema. That's filtered into cinema and poisoned it. Because Sir David Lean, if he was still around, he would say the exact same thing as I would say, you know, and his eyes would be rolling. He would say, "Get that bloody abomination out. I am not having my Lawrence Arabia on that." That's how he'll be. That's how Sir David Lean will be. He even ranted to get the bloody screen changed at the Odeon Marble Arch. I didn't know about that, but you read about it in years later that he wanted the screen, because the screen was a little bit more curved, too curved, and he wanted it a little bit more shallow so it wouldn't be too deep. So he just wanted it slightly altered. Otherwise, he said, no way is that film getting projected on that screen. So yeah, they changed the screen at the Marble Arch. Not that I know at the time when I saw it there in '89 on a Sunday, I think it was. First national day of showing the restored version. The sound system wasn't too bad. It was a little bit honky. It also played at the Warner. I think the Warner West End, when it was still before it was converted into a before it was converted around 94 or 92, I think, not till 94. I think they spent 2 years. So Lawrence Arabia showed at the Warner in THX sound system 70mm, so it would have probably been way better there. But I always kind of like walked past it, and you know, I always went to the Empire because it's like first impressions is what count. And when you see something, it's like, wow. Empire was good with THX. The UCI at High Wycombe, oh, that was wicked. I mean, that was wicked. You want bass? You got it. You think you got bass? We think we got bass in the home cinema. Yeah, it takes a little bit more than that, but the bass at High Wycombe was unlike anything. It made even car audio sound like rubbish. Because that's a large auditorium. That's a lot of cubic volume space to fill. And it was absolutely, it was like the essence of the universe, that trying to unravel the mystery of the universe. And that was what the THX was like there. And seeing that THX poster, which I got on my door, the same print version, it likes give you like, oh, wonder what it's like when I go in that room. Oh, yeah, but yeah, anyway, so yeah. And then I saw Lawrence Arabia after I saw it in 70 at the Odeon Marble Arch. I saw it downtown in one of the smaller screens then that had been modified because they butchered the original screen downtown, screen 2, into 4 screen. And screen 2, that then became screen number 5, I think, and then later became screen number 6 because they put another cinema upstairs, what used to be a bar, very luxurious and posh, and someone had the idea, oh, let's smash this up and we'll put another bloody cinema there. Oh God. Oh, when the toilets, I guess the toilets don't get much used, they'll probably turn that into a bloody cinema. Oh, good God. Oh, and when the storeroom where they keep all the popcorn doesn't get much bloody usage, they'll turn that into a bloody cinema for probably a 2-seat cinema. But you wouldn't have to have a projection screen. You only need a bloody flat screen on the wall. Oh, for God's sakes. Cinema has really gone down. It really has. Truly, it has gone downhill. It's not what it used to. It's not what it once used to be. If it can be, which can be, it can be possible to make it what it once was. It can be made what it once was with showmanship, and keep all, you know, keep digital projectors in, but put a 35 projector in so you can cater for the public. Not every film that's on 35mm has been converted to digital. You know how many bloody films there are worldwide? Billions. It's in a billions, literally. Not every one of them have been converted. It's like every now and then someone says, well, this kind of movie is kind of popular, blah, 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 blah. Look at all the feedback on the IMDb and the internet. This movie seems, let's put this into restoration and convert it to digital. But does it translate? Does it look like film? Because you want to pinch yourself. You want it preserved, because film won't last. Okay? Film won't last. It will deteriorate, just as anything else would deteriorate. All right? The sun in our solar system only has got 4.5 billion years of hydrogen fusion fuel left. Once that's finished, this solar system is finished. And that upsets me. It upsets me. I don't care if I'm here or not, or what, or even if I might be immortal, and I might be around to see the demise, and there'll be nothing I could do to stop it. It upsets me. That's the type of person I am. It upsets me deeply that this solar system will cease to exist. The only existence, and that Voyagers, I don't know. They'll still be traveling. Would they still be, Voyager 1 and 2, still be traveling in 4.5 billion years? I don't know. No one, because it's impossible to know. That's why I've got a very high statue of thinking. I'm almost sometime on the same plane, the same par as Dr. Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan had an IQ score of 170. My IQ score, I did a test years ago. I thought, this can't be real, can it? And it said, no, I've got a score of 165. I could see these colours and these patterns that are so complex, and very few people can only see that. Only a few can see it. Everyone else were like, yeah, you know, it's how you use your mind and your eyes and everything. And yeah, but they say we still only use so much percentage of our mind. And if we could unlock the other percentage that is not being, that's kind of idle in our mind, God forbid what we would do with that. God forbid. Because it would probably be used for something really perverted. So I think it's best left maybe kind of dormant in our mind. But you never know, it might be a formula or something for like a particular type of propulsion, light speed engine, or a formula to say, hey, to make the sun's hydrogen fusion fuel totally indefinite, last indefinite, no matter what. That meaning this planet will still be, you know. But that's the mind thinking, and the mind is free. Not matrix, free your mind and all. That's just but that might have some connection with. But the mind is free. How do you think this mobile phone got made? How do you think all this got made? Money didn't make it. Money's just a way to rewarding someone with, say, hey, here you go. Otherwise, I could go out and shoplift and I could feed myself if push comes to shove. You can go out into a shop with a shopping trolley, go around, put food in the trolley, and while you're going around, take something out and have something to eat. No one's going to care or notice. Not unless you got really hot top dog store detectives that notice and say, hey, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that? What do you mean I can't do that? What do you mean I can't do that? I'm doing this so I can survive. What fucking business has it got to do with you? You're just a store detective working here for a pastime. Get out of my face. That's what you should say. That's what you should say. You're trying to survive. You're trying to survive the day. Cats, they do the same thing. They scavenge around. If I had my cats outdoors, they'll still be scavenging around looking for food. There is nothing right or wrong in trying to survive. Nothing right or wrong. Oh, it's really what does, you know, and yeah, that's just, you know. Anyway, I've had a little warm up. This is about almost 30 minutes. So I'll just cut to the chase. I've had to do a few other checks today. I had to see what's up with my bass shakers for my seats. Bass signal when I was playing 40 and 50 hertz sine wave, it kind of like something weird going on, and couldn't figure out, was it the wiring? So I had to go through all the wiring on the connections. Oh, my bass shaker's active on my seat. It's playing Top Gun, this part of the movie. It's only playing at a mild level at the moment. Oh, that's a reconstruction of the oh, hang on. Everybody. This has got the fake grain effect. So you see this flashback in the movie, right, where, you know, eject, you know, the ejection seats go up one by one, and then he hits the canopy. But this has got that grain effect. So if I were to if I were to get Top Gun 4K, it would probably most likely have that fake grain effect, because you don't. It's like a static noise. If I go in a bit closer here, you see that, everyone? That is like some static noise. It's a fake grain effect that they're putting on the image. Please trust me, I am an ex-projectionist. I do know what real grain fucking looks like. But that is some sort of fake, because a lot of people bitch and moan on Blu-ray.com or AVS forum, bitching, moaning, oh, I want it, oh, what's all this grain, oh, it looks terrible. That was years ago, right? What do you think engineers are doing? They're trying to DNR the bloody thing to death, make it look even more rubbish. And then you get a lot of more people saying, hell, what is with all this DNR, for Christ's sake? Every Blu-ray player and AVR in the home, even the TVs and projectors, they all got a DNR feature built into it. The film should be left untampered with. It should be left raw. You should capture the essence of what is on 35 or 65 millimeter, 70 mil, 65. You know, if that movie was filmed 65, you know, even though minimizes grain, it should only be captured raw. And if someone bitches and moans and don't like the grain, you got a digital noise reduction on your goddamn Blu-ray player, your goddamn AVR, your goddamn OLED, and your goddamn video projector. Fucking use it and shut the fuck up. Oh. Because once you do it on disc, you can't undo it. It's there. You can't. If this noise effect, bloody hell, it is awful. I'm surprised I'm seeing it. Just mute the bass shaker, or go on to my DCX. Yeah, just mute it on the DCX. But when it goes to this fake grain flashback, reverse the camera. When it goes from this to the actual movie, it looks so smooth, like it was filmed digital, or there's digital noise reduction applied. I don't know. As far as you know, and it goes back to this again. If I were to play the Laserdisc or the DVD, I think I got the HDVD of it as well. If I were to go back to one of those versions, right, I wouldn't see that noise effect. It's a bloody annoying, and I don't know why for the life of me most of you think I'm trolling. I'm being honest and pointing out there's something not right with that. It's fake. Now the grain texture or such on Star Trek 6 4K, that looks legitimate. Or does it? But to me, it looks like, because the way it moves and the way it is kind of textured in the image. But for the life of me, I still cannot understand how you can still see possibly that. Bear, can you stop doing that? Because you need to see that image magnified pretty large to even notice it. Otherwise, 35mm is that size. It's that size as far as I can remember when handling it through the projector so many bloody times, lacing it up, threading it and lacing it. And then the actual image itself on the 35 is a little bit more smaller. You would need a very powerful magnifying device to then see, oh right, you can see grain itself, because film, it has inherently grain structure, which makes up the the quality of image. Digital is pixels. Okay? Is that in any way unclear? Now, we see image as light and shadow. We don't see grain. We don't see pixels. We see nothing but light and shadow. This video, even though I'm on the camera, not on the other device, the quality will be a little bit different on this because of the type of, you know, filtering and algorithm, blah, blah, black sheep. But all we see in real life is light and shadow, and that is what makes an image. No if, no but, no debate, no vote. You can talk about it until you're blue in the bloody face on Blu-ray.com or AVS bloody forum. I don't care which. You can talk it until you're blue in the bloody face, or you can accept it. Accept the fact. You can go and take 35mm camera versus digital, set them up on a tripod and take a picture and do a little bit more than that because it's a little bit more complex to get the white balance level on a digital camera set up correct. Also, I've got to say, I do not like the colour of this bloody movie. It looks crap. It really does look crap. I don't know what they're giving it, this teal, this bloody orange colour, a bloody effect. It is bloody annoying. If I were to look at the first Top Gun, it wouldn't have this kind of colour crap. Believe me, it wouldn't. And if you want Top Gun, right, also with the kind of theatrical mix, you got to have either play the THX AC3 Laserdisc or the DVD, the first edition, and they are the exact same film mix. Yeah, I can see what they're doing here with the Limax. It's just Limax now because they got little cameras, and they even mention it in the video or something that they're not even IMAX cameras. They're very tiny. You wouldn't be able to fit a bloody IMAX camera in those bloody things because it would affect the aircraft's ability. You know, it would be very, very kind of so you got to do something a little bit smaller. And I don't like this Limax aspect ratio switching on and off. It is visually bloody annoying. If I wanted to mask it, because as far as I'm concerned, that film is in scope, right? That's 235, or that we call it scope in projection. And if it in a widescreen film, I don't understand for my life of me why widescreen films cannot be with this bloody 4K format. So a widescreen movie would have the same black bars, okay, but the widescreen movie would be about roughly here. So that black bar's going down here, because when you look at it being projected or masking or that, most people, but when I used to do it along with other projectionists, you're changing the aperture plate. So if you've gone from a Dolby trailer, right? That might be sometimes the trailers come widescreen or scope, depending on the trailer. But if you've gone from the movie, you know, all the trailers, advertisements and so forth, and they all usually project in widescreen. So the masking is like there, right? And then you go to scope. You got about, oh gosh, about 100 foot or so of blank film running through the projector. So when you see the last bit of what's it on the screen, we got called the dowser. Fade the light down. So the light kind of fades down to about black, and it's like, what's going on? Yeah, there's quite a bit going on. That takes a few seconds, and it's very complex. And you couldn't even duplicate this with home cinema because it's impossible. Because the time it would take for a video projector to do switching, the AVR, forget about it. You want to play projection, you missed that boat. There, out. Come on. Mr. Bear, my cat, is being a naughty cat. So you missed that boat. What you got to do is shut the light down, have one finger ready on the Dolby Cinema fader or processor, and press mute, and then you got to change, then go from that position there like this, and then go down to the projector, pull the aperture plate out, or what was it, push it in for scope, and then go to the lens turret, press your finger down on the top here, and then it's a manual change. So you've got to flip the lens round. Some have automation on it where the film goes through and it's got a little bit of silver tape on the film, and then it goes and triggers the automation, and then it would change the aperture plate, the lens turret, and adjust the masking. So you've got to do that, press the masking to open up for scope, and then select Dolby A over to Dolby SR, because the movie's going to be playing in SR because it's SR. And then you got a standby on the dowser, watching the film as it's just coming down, and then going into the film gate, and then open the dowser. And all that has got to be done within just a few seconds. You can't do that on all this rubbish. This takes about 10 seconds to switch video mode format. I could do a lens and all that quicker than this bloody thing. I'm not sure how quick a Trinov is, but because everyone's bragging a Trinov is better than everything else, I like to see a video. I'll nominate anyone to show me a video and how quick a Trinov can switch video mode switching. And you can't impress me with how well your Trinov is with sound formatting, because it can't do all the sound formats. It can only do what it's got in the box, just like that, or any other AVR now. It cannot do all the sound formats. So it's there. You stop this behavior. There. Honestly, stop this. Stop that behavior, Bear. Got the bloody movie on pause, so just resume it. Yeah. To say this movie looks garbage trash, it's definitely going in my cat litter box. So that'll be in another special video. I don't give a damn, because, you know, Tom Cruise is flying around. We all know he's fake, because he's Scientology, and all the other actors are fake. They do all this boot camp, don't they, to hype up the bloody movie, yeah? But, you know there's another pilot in that aircraft. And it's, you know, so that's, you know, but I have to say, it looks better than the first Top Gun with the aerial photography, okay? Because with the first Top Gun, that was a combination of aerial photography, model, and rear projection, and maybe some blue screen with the model work or whatever. There, will you stop it? You know, because most of the MiGs that you see or blowing up are models going down on wires, and then boom, high-speed photography, blow the thing to smithereens. Splash one, Fox one, splash one. I got tone. I'm going to guns. You know, it's okay. They're using, you know, there may be a bit of CGI in this movie because you've got to think, you know, and blue screen or light photography and all that gets pretty good now. Whereas if they can say, "Yep, that was total CGI," and you go, "Nah, that was CGI. Damn, that was good. What was the technique, the process to get all the lighting balance right and everything? Because that takes a bit of skill and a bit of someone with an eye that to get that balance. Because you got to look at reality and then put that into fantasy and fool the audience, you know. And if you could fool nearly the entire cinema, then wow, they probably did some pretty good work there, you know, because it's not easy. Um, even with some photochemical effects and getting that to look good, and sometimes it's like that was an artificial tornado. It looked like the real thing. No. That was a cloud tank. So what they do is they got a water like, and they put a mixture in the tank to give it a kind of like a tornado effect, and they film it. All right, and it looks like a real tornado. Because when you look at a tornado, you think, what does that look like? It looks like smoke. It's like the visual effects people trying to put Apollo 13 together and make it launch with the boosters and all that. And then one visual effect guy says, looks like a fire extinguisher." So he tried. So when you see those boosters firing, boosh, 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 not that they would do that because they all fire at the same time. Boom. You know, they don't go boom, 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 boom. They all go simultaneous. You know, but that was a fire extinguisher effect. If you find the making of, they used the fire extinguisher to give that effect. All this crap in the movie with the push-ups and this bloody Limax is bloody getting on my nerve because it's like to me it looks like super 35mm, and you take away the matting on it, yeah, and you got a full screen because they film it without any anamorphic lenses. And oh dear. See, I can see the sound levels up here, but my height 1 and height number 3 that used to be wired onto auxiliary number auxiliary number 1. They're all now hardwired going out from the AVR, going over to the Dolby SA10s in the kitchen, 3 SA10s. So because I was having slight issues with trying to get balance of voltage level, because one was going out putting out a balanced signal and one was outputting that unbalanced. So difference there is the voltage level, and it was just pain. It just was getting on my pain in my ass, and so I thought, fuck it, just wire the other channels into there. If I want to put them onto bar graphic level meters, I could still do that, but I can't do it through that because this will only handle 8-channel input, right? So I would have to trade off and move my back surround channel and put it elsewhere. So there's the back surround down there moving around down here. I haven't got it on 5 screen. I haven't got it on 5 screen wide at the moment. I've only got it on basic LCR at the moment, 3 screen. So there's my 3 screen up there, and then my LFE, and a little bit occasional in the surround. And I had to do a sound level adjustment as well on the AVR because I was listening and noticing and watching the levels and thinking, bloody hell, these surround levels are a little bit too damn loud. And I could see the bloody levels on there, and they were just like, lower it down. I don't know what they've done on this mix, but it is a bit of a mess. And because of COVID and Corona-ish, they had a little bit more time. I don't know if they had the budget and could spend a little bit more on getting the sound better, but the opening, I'll go to it again. I thought you could just press that and go chapter 1 now. I wonder if it's got a proper menu. Let's have a look. What's the menu on it like? Because some 4K disc menu display. Oh yeah, it's got that type. That's good. That's good. You just go in there and then go back to chapter 1. I'm going to close my window. Okay. Right, let's switch that to Dolby Atmos on there. I'll just check to see if I've got my system, because I had to do quite a few sound checks today. Yeah, switch them on. I put everything to large. Small is for home cinemas that are too scared to dare. And you like to say, who dares wins. Right. So anyone that's got this or seen it, whatever, or don't really care for it, I don't really care for it myself. I'm just here to slag it off. Because some people with their Trinovs and their visual on-screen display say, oh, look, the object's moving around. Oh, wow. Wow, you got to spend 40 grand, 50K just to get a Sega video game 3D graphics moving around. Crikey, I'll just mute these channels and I'll just listen to the real thing. Because I can spot a decent overhead versus a rubbish. And this has got some bad sound continuity, I have to say. So it started almost good. So I'm not sure if you'll hear it, but I'll play a little bit and then not of it, or I'll just lower the volume down. Oh yeah, I've got to switch Atmos on there because it's in Dolby True. Okay. A bit of music will fade up in a moment. Now, it kind of moves from the bed channel that you sleep on, the bed, and then you dream about objects. It kind of has this harmonistic. And it was almost working. It was almost working. I was thought, oh wow. So I could hear it on my my height number 2 with dog number 1. There's not much going on the below surround, so I don't think if they're going to use any anti-phasing and steering some of the multi-layer soundtracks that they layer on film, and then some of those tracks may have a bit of anti-phase, and then the decoder says, oh right, there's something there, bit of overhead there with but here's the sound continuity problem. So I hear that literally in dog number 1. Anyone else with a home theatre, they're going to hear it phantom, mono. So if you're sat over here, you'll hear the sound more or less there and a little bit distant over that way. And if you're in the middle, you hear it totally above you. Or if I'm here, I hear it totally there. Or if I was in the other seat, I would hear it totally in that way. But if someone was over there and hearing it phantom, they'll say, and then you get into an argument. But it's opening up in stereo now because I can hear the whip from the stereo. I can hear the music is playing in with a stereo whip from height number 2. I'll just confirm if height number 3 is active. I'll just go at the back of the room. It seems like height 3 is off. And it seems like height number 1 is off because I haven't got visual LED VU meter display to see. And because you also get the phenomena, which is called acoustical frequency masking effect. So I'll just see how it progresses. But hearing the what you call the air traffic control and hearing that overhead to what I was seeing visually on screen didn't make sense because the continuity of it seemed out of place. If you were really there, right, and there was it would come from a specific location. It's like the mixers and the director have got no bloody clue or haven't even written down blah blah blah, sound should come from this position with this visual angle. And hearing some of the airplanes moving around overhead doesn't make sense because they're down at this level on the taxi runway on the aircraft carrier. Doesn't make sense to bloody have the bloody aircraft sounding up there, because unless the camera itself goes underneath the aircraft, or you have the camera down at a low angle and the aircraft, right, comes toward it, like a typical cliche that you usually see in filmmaking. There's none of that. It's like randomly the bloody sound mixers is just throwing sound up there. So this is just right on the beginning, and right on the bloody beginning, that's not very good impression whatsoever. It's bad impression, bad sound impression. If you heard it at the cinema, you might think, and then you get it at home, and then you can analyze it. And then you can say, like, oh, bloody hell. Yeah. So all I'm hearing at the moment is height number 2 in stereo. And then I hear the aircraft moving off. But visually, where's the aircraft? It's on the bloody runway, obviously. That doesn't make sense. That sound is partly also going to be on the screen channel, but hearing it on the overhead makes no bloody sense whatsoever, because it doesn't make sense. If you put those overheads really high up, as high as, it still wouldn't make bloody sense, because the sound is physically fucking impossible to travel that way up. Fucking hell. I tell you, Hollywood sound mixers really, sometimes they really do get on my tits, because it's like wasting my bloody listening time with a hyped up bloody movie, and they can't even get the bloody opening bloody sounding right. Okay, now that bit made a little bit of sense. But they completely messed it up. So where you see the visual on screen of that position, yeah, that would make sense to have the sound then suddenly go overhead, because you're hearing part of the mechanical, the engine, and who has ever been strapped to a bloody aircraft in that position? Who's stupid enough to actually listen? I think you'll get your hearing wrecked. It'd be the last bloody thing you'd ever hear. But you would hear several things there. The wheels is going along a type of mechanical to push. It's kind of like a catapult, and you'd hear the sound of that running along the deck, as well as the engine thrust and all that is aft. It's after the on the image at that angle, but you only get images like this for a few couple of seconds. It's like, what was the bloody point of that? Let's see if I can pet my cat bear. He doesn't like being held and doesn't like being petted. He's not a lap cat, but he'll lay on my chest on bed. That's where you dream about the objects then. Don't you, bear? He wants to get down. Unless I had food in my hand or something, he'll then show interest. But if I don't have food in my hand, he won't show any interest. He's kind of going, He wants to get down. Come on. There you go. He's not a lap cat. I got had when I bought him. I was had. No wonder the original owner wanted to get rid of him. I end up with spawn of Satan. So, you know, the aircraft's taken off now, right? Get a bit more overhead, right? But the position doesn't make sense. It's randomly mixed in the overhead. That sound will be coming from a specific location on that aircraft carrier. I don't know where. It will be coming from a specific location. And it's like, this movie, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think it should have ever got green lighted. They should have made this movie back in the 1990s. It would have been okay then, but go like almost 40 years later, almost 40 years, and it's like, bloody hell, with all this 3D and Limax and ATMOS, and this is the best they can come up with. Bloody hell. I've already watched the movie. I've already seen it. Oh, Lady Gaga music. Oh my goodness. What else was that on the music there? Please, that wasn't Hans Zimmer. That wasn't Hans Zimmer, was it? Oh my goodness. All right, it's got Harold Flatterminer. Harold Flatterminer. And sometimes you only hear a little bit of oof and oof and oof and oof on the overhead, but the continuity of it is randomly. It's like the bloody mixers haven't got a bloody clue, including the director. They've just got no way. Dolby Atmos has been around now for 10 fucking years. And still all these hotshot directors still haven't got a bloody clue how to use the bloody Atmos. Or use the overhead. They still haven't got a bloody clue. Because the first thing you're going to be thinking is how to utilize the sound artistically. It's like Maverick comes out of a bloody shack, right? He's in a little caravan or something, right? He comes out. There should be overhead sound, right? There should be overhead sound, right? I'll point it out as he goes out, walks out, the camera goes near and goes in to a different acoustical space. Therefore, you go from a small enclosure and then you go out through a door, and then your ears can register the change in the something that's claustrophobic to something that's a little bit open space. I noticed this even going out of my door, out into a different, because I hear reflectivity on the floor, the sidewalls and the ceiling, as well as the ceiling, and then reflections up. I hear all that. But 10 years of ATMOS and they still can't mix it fucking right. Wasting my fucking listening time. Because it's not creating this ambisonic, this psychoacoustic. I'm just going to jump chapters because this movie's pissing me off. Oh, it's a helicopter. But the continuity is wrong. This is on the next chapter. And it's still on height number still on height number 2. If I switch the channel outputs to if I switch height number 2 off, the sound would go on to height number 1 and height number 3 behind me. But that's the same signal. It's the same signal. So what the height number 2 is doing is kind of the truth. It's kind of the truth. But the continuity of that visual, it makes no sense. The helicopter's up that way. The bloody sound is, it makes no sense. It doesn't make sense unless the helicopter kind of came like this way and then goes off screen to overhead. That makes sense. Does it make sense? And if it had discrete below surround, I could do matrix below surround. If it goes that way, it would go underneath your cinema seating, providing you got real cinema seats. Because if you haven't, you can't put speakers underneath because it'll sound muffled. My seats are open, so the sound reflects on the seat bucket, spreads out, and then I hear it below me in a diffused way, so I hear it below me. But that makes no sense. It's the sound visual continuity is just random in the mix. And then they gradually faden it down in the mix. Right? Okay. It's so, it's so loud, not really loud. Come back. And it goes on. It's still there in front. The distance, and then it lands, is more or less the same distance. That thing will still be bloody loud if on the overhead. But why did the mixer suddenly fade it down on the mixing console? Oh my goodness. Is it artistic bullshit film sound mixing? Because this is, oh my goodness gracious. To think that Gary Summers was one of the mixers on this, former Skywalker Sound at one that has been awarded so many Academy Awards in the past, and to think that he's doing this. And word is, Gary Summers made a comment, I think it was last year or the year before, he made a comment somewhere, and that person that made the comment on YouTube that said blah 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 this, I knew exactly who that person. I knew who they were talking about because they said he won so many Academy Awards, blah this and that, and I thought that sounds like Gary Summers at Skywalker Sound. He doesn't work there, I think, anymore. He may do moonlighting or whatever there, but he has his own sort of sound mixing thing now. So and Gary Summers made a comment like Dolby Laboratories are trying to keep Dolby Atmos like something relative, because Dolby Atmos is really rubbish in plain simple term. It is pretty rubbish most of the time, and they're just trying to keep it relevant, and I think he's absolutely right. I think he's absolutely right. Bear. You know, I'd rather watch the scene here now with Ed Harris, because he seems more impressive than Tom Cruise. You know, all I want to see is Ed Harris in the fucking abyss on 4K with a proper transfer and everything. You know, Ed Harris. You know, all I want to see is Ed Harris. I can't understand this scene. Why there's someone with a bloody gun, rifle, and all that, and you know, he's basically taken a fictitious aircraft that doesn't exist yet, called the Dark Star, not the Death Star, the Dark Star SR-72, which is kind of a version 2 for the Blackbird SR-71, which was an iconic aircraft during the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and then the 90s. The aircraft was phased out, retired. Still by far the fastest plane on the planet, but very controversial at air show. People couldn't even get close. You can look at it but can't touch it. Look but don't touch. And it's the same goes, you know, if someone comes there, you can look but don't touch any of this equipment. Otherwise, you'll be spending the next few hours putting it back right. And believe me, you don't want to do that. It's like, do I adjust this fader here? Or do this one here? I got it wired specific. I could do quite a few things here, balance levels and all that, and get this movie soundtrack playing back at a pretty good high caliber level, because, as you know, I'm aware of acoustical frequency masking effect, and if you ever had the time to own a CB radio, you'd know what I'm talking about. When you got overlapping stations all on the same frequency, oh god, I think this movie is only going to use height number 2. I'm sick of hearing that fucking music already. So far, I haven't heard anything going through height 1 and height number 3. I just heard my cat behind me going, what are you up to, Bear? I heard him at this angle. So there was someone saying on, I'm not sure who it was now, someone on YouTube a couple of days ago, I think it was 2 days ago, in a live video or something, with 2 or 3 people in it, and sort of saying we don't hear very well behind us. Well, that's bullshit. I'm not sure if it was Gene DeSella of Audioholics. I think it might have been Gene DeSella. Well, I can't help it if your home cinema is not that good. I can't help it. I offered, or you could just keep believing all these sound mixers and all that and believing they're bullshit. Probably because they just never had the opportunity to mix a really decent film and be let loose and then do something really decent, because otherwise you can hear sound behind you. No, even in real life. I just heard my cat Bear down at this going, and I've got seats here. I've got seating. So all this bullshit and that we don't hear very well behind us is total bullshit. I can hear more bloody overhead, and like we don't hear bloody well overhead as well. Well, that's bullshit as well. Either I'm bloody special and unique, and maybe Gene DeSella is only kind of like okay with listening and probably good with maybe testing things with test equipment, you know, because everyone's good at something. Not everyone can do everything. If we could, then I would be a god. So, you know, it's just bullshit. Most people hear sound, and most, well, that was a kind of a very unusual sound pan, right? Oh wow, that was good, but made no sense. Still made no sense. But I've got a nice kind of effect here on this side of mine because I'm hearing. Ooh, I can't do that because it does this kind of phase like effect, and when you can't do that, it's like the sound is really doing something good there, but it's still crap. Okay, this is definitely going in my cat litter box because I don't like the color and I don't like the sound mixing, and there's more sound overhead now. It doesn't make sense. It's like the bloody aircraft is way up there. Is way up, right? It's like they got the aircraft, right? They got all these airplanes, right? Here. And that sound, yeah, it's making, it's like the aircraft has been hoisted up, yeah, on a bloody crane. I have got by far probably the best listening ears on YouTube, period. There's another guy that calls himself the Bright Side. I wonder how he did this, because he seems to listen. But I wonder if this made sense, or if he got, or does he accept the bullshit and think, oh, that was great. Oh, you know. But this is just dreadful sound mixing. That sound that I was hearing should be in the side surround, and that sound is in the side surround because it's been decoded, extracted and decoded, discreetly removed away from the side surround, because height number one is your front, left and right, that's where the sound goes. Height number two is your side, goes onto the side surrounds. Height number three goes onto your back surround. That's how it works. And all the decoder does is extracts and decodes it, unwraps it, and when it goes there or there, it goes there. But that doesn't mean I have to have those speakers up there. I can have another rewiring and put those sound on other speakers in my THX Cinema, somewhere a little bit below these, and just put it down here somewhere. But I can't. I've got equipment in the way there, so I could kind of do that, because generally looking at the mix, as listening to the mix and looking at the visual continuity, yeah, I don't know how this sounded in that on a Dolby CP850. I don't know how this sounded on a CP850. It must have been dreadful, because you wouldn't even notice the first time in a cinema. You wouldn't notice if you're hearing overhead or the side surround. You wouldn't have a clue, because the side surround and back surrounds, they're up at this height level, and then the overheads, they're just a little higher up. I kind of almost made a folly mistake, because I didn't intend to put Dolby Atmos in this home cinema. I put my surround speakers up where they are years before I brought a Dolby Atmos AVR. Big mistake, waste of money, waste of my bloody listening time. I could do this with like the sound that I'm hearing. You could probably beat it using Pro Logic 2X and connect it to the side surround output on the AVR, another AVR with PL2X, and see how that decoder thinks and steers the signal, even though it's going to still take a little bit of difference of the left and right. Yeah. And that's no more different than using Dolby Upmixer or DSU. And that only takes sound from the left and right front and then puts it on height 1, 2, and 3. It's the same sound. It doesn't have any panning effects going from front, middle, and back. It's totally only side to side. So you'd be just sticking a lot of noise up on the overhead, masking the discrete overhead sound. You'll be masking it because the AVR has got no way or ability to actually lower the level down. So you got a level adjustment to lower the DSU that's up here, or rather it'd be there, and the overhead sound would be up here, very weak sounding. Or should I put it maybe like that would be the overhead and this would be the other sound, and it's this level. You want to reduce the level down, quiet on it, and then so it kind of almost, but it's a gimmick. It's a goddamn gimmick. And that sound that you'll be hearing, it totally belongs up front. It doesn't belong on the overheads, because then the continuity of it, to me, I notice it, and it's just like, that's not right. That belongs up front. In this day and age of discrete audio, totally discrete, and all this bullshit overhead, ATMOSing, it belongs totally up bloody front with a total different speaker arrangement, which I've kind of been thinking about. Dog number 2. There's the aircraft flying around again, right? The aircraft's flying around. What a load of bullshit in sound mixing. Right? This is just like, is this the same direct that crappy Mission Impossible with the bloody Limax? Right, there's no sound there, obviously, because that's up screen, that's up front. There should be sound in the overhead, in the speakers, the side surrounds, the front, everything, because you're inside a canopy, a cockpit on an aircraft, and it will be pretty damn noisy. It wouldn't be like being on a commercial airliner where it would be a little bit more quieter, even though probably engineers will probably try and make it as quiet as they can inside these, but yeah, okay. Again, really, bloody hell, it's because it's not like the actual sound mixers or the sound team or what. Did they get an opportunity? Did they get an opportunity to actually go in these aircraft and actually hear the acoustical and map it and do a video blog, so you got something there as a video blog, right, as a guideline. So when you come to mixing and all the individual soundtracks and then doing the balancing and level and everything to create this acoustical illusion, because that's all it'd be at the end of the day. It's still to this day impossible to do or recreate sound in movie soundtrack or anything else. It's impossible. You only get an approximation, and that is it. Which is better than nothing. It's not, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's still better than that. It's still better, you know, and you got at least something, you got something there, it's an approximation, but it would never, ever, ever duplicate what you really, really honestly, you know, because it's impossible, and it's totally impossible to play back. You get like something that sounds like, fucking hell, that sounds a little bit over loud. And where's all the rest of the feel of it, you know? All these cinemas should be doing it all equal today, equal, but they don't. You go into every different cinema, they're all totally sounding in the bass range, totally different. They should all be equal. It's like, buy some Pepsi, pour it out. Every time I taste it, it tastes the same. It should be equal. Of course, this is Pepsi with a slice of lemon. That's the way to do it. With ice cubes, but I haven't got any ice cubes. The lemon gives it an extra zest, and that's like when you go and you say, you know, like, you know, because that's usually preferably how it's served. But Tom Cruise with his, and I don't understand why there was aircraft in this scene here flying overhead. So go back and just point out all the bad crap sound mixing. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. All right, you see aircraft flying there, boom, 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 boom. Notice the distance, okay? Next scene coming up. Oh, distant again, and they're overhead. Let me just double check to see if they were panning on height number 1. No, they're still on height number 2. I'm afraid by this may be only, this may only be a height number 2 mix. Yeah, that's really knocking my socks off. Yeah, I've walked around my room. I've walked around the room, listening in real time, without the need of speed of spending it out on a bloody goddamn Trinov just to see a visual. Because what the spare change guy was seeing, because he's only got, in his home theatre cinema, he's only got height 1 and height number 3. He's only got speakers at the front and at the back. He hasn't got no middle. Oh, that was kind of good. Oh, wow. Oh, what was going on there, boys and girls? Hang on. Let's go back. Press the goddamn chapter. Hang on. I'll go back. Go back to the scene. Well, that was pretty good. But it's not saying, I'm not going to say endorse this bloody movie. I'm not getting paid for this, all right? I don't get paid for this. I jumped the bloody chapter and I skipped the fucking chapter. I can't remember what bloody chapter the damn thing was on. No, I think it was this one. Here, and I've got to go forward. Maybe I'll use visual. Go visual. There's something going on there in the mix. I think Jennifer Connelly looks bloody preposterous in this bloody movie. What happened to Charlie? Oh, she ate too many bloody Twinkies and got a little bit overweight. I think it's this chapter. You know, because there's so many of them. Oh yeah, it's this chapter. Okay. Well, that sounded almost a bit loudish, only because it's loud, like pink noise playing. Chapter 5. I think you can bookmark. I'm not sure if you'll be able to bookmark this. Some discs you can bookmark it. So let me just wait for that scene to come up again, because I'm not sure if there was some anti-phasing going on and I was getting a bit of below surround, because it was doing a kind of whooshy effect. But it's disappointing there's only height number 2 being on. They're only using this, not height 1 and height 2 and height 3 all together, and that would be a little bit more. That'd be a lot better. But spare change guy, he only uses speakers at the front and the back, so most of the time he's hearing totally phantom mono sound coming in from the back and the front, coming in this way. So he needs to put some more speakers on his ceiling. Oh, that bit there. Switch the camera. Wow. I'll do a bit of thorough listening. Let's have a look at the let me go and have a look at the go steady. Okay, let's back up the scene. Go and have a visual eyeball on the okay, play it. Maybe I have to turn the light off, it'd be a little bit clearer. Not totally clear. I think the scene's coming up. Unless I missed it. So it's kind of like seeing objects here, little LEDs blinking. I think I might have missed the scene. Battery charge on the DSLR battery. Yeah, well, the scene played, but let's back it up. Let me back it up. All the up crap in the bloody movie, really. See, I even get a good sound of even height number 2 standing back here, which is up there. The sound going along, and I can totally pinpoint it. I can sit in this seat. I can't sit here because I've got a load of bloody movies there. I can sit in this seat here, even though it's not designed for the screen, because it's only designed for the projector. And no, I don't think I'm going to waste my lamp time on my projector with this bloody movie, especially with the bloody Limax, because I would need to put some masking up on the bloody screen and mask that bloody Limax out, because I would end up throwing my bloody slipper at the bloody projection screen. I'm almost close to throwing my slipper at the OLED. And I've done that once, and I will do it again. I never bluff. I never, ever do bluff. It's very easy to piss people off these days with bullshit. Yeah, I can hear the sound panning overhead. Yeah, and I'm getting that kind of whooshy, but it's not immersive because they should have been utilizing height 1, 2, and 3 discreetly. There are very few mixes where it is utilized discreetly. Very few, far between. It kind of reminds me like 70mm that only had use of format 43 utilized. That was only put on a very few handful of 70mm film. Yeah, but in the middle, in the front row, because the front row is near height number, you know, and I mimic my surrounds just like a cinema auditorium. I see like a cinema auditorium's this size. Okay. Oh, hang on. Let's have a listen to that bit there. Hang on, what was going on there? Was there some height number 1 actually coming in? Let me have another listen. Again, I'm totally, you know, up here. They're up there. Was there anything going into my extra channel? Though very rare, I think. Turn on, aren't they? I'm pretty sure they're turned on the amplifier because I had to make some rearrangements recently. I only have to put my ear to it if I can hear a little bit of hiss or anything. I know it's connected. Or has my cat done something? Okay, if I'm not too sure, here's a trick I can do. I think the REM would have timed out, so I've got to reopen it. Okay, I go into the REM, and what I can do is invert the sound. I can do an inverting on the pink noise and send the signal below. Try doing that on a Trin-off. Of course, you need the extra decoding to go with it, which is cheap. So technically, my THX cinema is like 1512.2/6/8. Yeah, and it was cheap as I can do it. Okay, so all the other channels are muted. Okay, they're on mute. Go to pink noise. Oh, my cat bear's watching the OLED. Uh-oh. Not good. Let me just fade that down a bit. Pink noise is outputting on height 1, 2, and 3 simultaneously. I could go into the Oh no, I can't go into the Crown because they're on a Behringer now. Because the other Crown amplifier, kaboom, component, I think it's like a type of resistor diode, it kind of exploded. So I've got to go in there, take the amplifier, disassemble it, take out the main motherboard, and then desolder it underneath, and then take the failed component and put a brand new one in, put it all back together, knock on wood, turn it on, and hope it just turns back on with normal operating, you know. Okay, so I can just go and just turn the amplifiers manually off or turn the volume down. But I've just inverted the sound, so if you listen, there will be a total difference in the timbre. That's overhead, and that's below surround. And I'll just verify that my my extra 1, 2 and 3 are active. Yeah, that's active. Yeah, that's active. That's active. That's active. That's active. And at the back, which is very dark at the back. Yeah, that's active. Let me just check the other one. Yep, that's active. They're all active. I don't think there's much speciality going on with Tom Cruise. So I know my speakers are okay. Even though I got to readjust the levels, the pink noise and such, the levels, and adjust some EQ, just to get it kind of almost the same, as well as looking at it with our microphone, measure with the frequency, and then look at it with an SPL meter. So it's and also there's another one where I can, if I wire it all into the system, I can measure it electronically. So if I think, okay, the levels are actually out of place there, sort of thing, I'll just readjust it until they're equal. It's not a big deal. Okay, do not ever think of me once as an idiot. I could put someone's home cinema together a lot better than probably most of these people out there that are putting it together for, like, oh my goodness, how much are you charging these people, really? Daylight robbery. Because they think this whole thing is a luxury. It isn't. It isn't a luxury. It may have been a couple of decades ago, but today it is not. But it is not a luxury. Bloody hell. Just because someone's got happens to have the lucky position to have a flash job, wear flash watches and a flash motor car, and then bought a Trinov. But did he put all that together in his home cinema? Did he put all that together from scratch? Or did he get someone to come in and put it all together for him? Because if he had put it together for him, he only knows how to turn this on and press that. That's all he knows about it. He doesn't know anything else about the operating system, what the amplifier's frequency response is. Has he measured amplifiers direct and measured it with REM, so you can see the frequency response is flat? Or does it go downward a bit? Or does it elevate up a little bit? That person's got no idea. I know what my amplifier's frequency response are. The Crowns are pretty flat. The Behringer EPQ 304s, they've got a bit of a low, their frequency rolls off a little bit. I think the frequency on the NX amplifiers or the iNukes is a bit flatter from what I measured. And I could do that through the THX sound system very safely, monitor it on the computer without blowing my computer to smithereens. Has anyone tested their, you know, because these are checks and tests that a cinema engineer would do. And it takes days. It's not a couple of, it's not 15 bloody minutes with a bloody auto at bloody Odyssey or live Dirac. Crikey, it takes days to do this. Because you got to know what these amplifiers are capable of doing. What can they do and what cannot they do? You got to know that. And then you got to do tests and how much bass potential can you get out of it until the amplifier is near clipping and you think they've got to put a safety margin in of maybe 10 dB or something because you don't want it going up to clip. That's bad. That's like putting the accelerator down on a motor car and then driving the bloody engine into the bloody red, and then you'll just wreck your engine on your car, as well as you'll wreck the bloody speaker. You got to know what the potential is. Those are basics. Those are simple things that have been around for decades. THX fucking did a battery of fucking testing. Some of it we don't even know. Ooh, what is the 2000 tests or whatever they do? Can I have a manual for that so I can go through and compare with my own? You know, but some of that I think is just hyped up and bullshit. 2000 tests or whatever it is. Oh, fucking hell, you'll be there for fucking months testing it. And is this on, and is there a rotor shift on this? Because if someone else comes in, they might have a total different listening perspective. You got to train everyone so they almost know what to look for, what to listen for, and what to feel for. And then you got engineers, then you're getting a standard somewhere. Has anyone seen this new video on YouTube called the Cinema Engineer Society or whatever they're called, the Home Cinema Engineer, whatever? They're 4 guys, and so far all they've been talking about is motor car, Ferraris, rich cars, bloody rich watches, fucking luxury this, luxury that, and fucking chefs and cooking. What the fuck has that got to do with home cinema or even cinema? It's probably because these guys probably don't get much business and they're trying to put themselves on YouTube to try and get business coming their way. You ain't going to get much business that way, guys. If you keep talking about rich stuff, you're going to cheese off a lot of people like myself that are in the lower class. And my hearing ability and listening is way above you guys. They've not even mentioned what filmed this, that, what inspired them or anything that. Crying out loud. I look at them and I can say, these guys are probably maybe in their 40s or something. I'm in my, you know, and I could just say like, bloody hell, this guy's probably not experienced this, that, blah, blah, blah. They go to all these fancy trade shows like CEDIA and whatever for the rich people. People that are in the upper class that want to be entrepreneurs. Oh, for Christ's sake. Am I jealous? I'm not least bit jealous. I'd rather spend a whole bloody month in bed and go to one of these hi-fi home cinema convention shows. I'm not interested. They're only going to sell you something that's totally brand new, does the same thing as what you've got already, and doesn't bring anything to the table whatsoever. other than this bloody Top Maverick, there's hardly any anti-steering going on. Unlike Baby Driver, where chapter 18, suddenly the music that's playing in mostly pans a little bit through height 1 and then goes into height 2 and then 3 just before they do the bank robbery. In chapter 18, you hear like a guy on a radio, like it's artistically done, like the airwaves, the sound traveling through the airwaves and goes up from the other channels and then pans, and then mostly height number 2 when, you know, we're going in that bank, we're going to get to what we want, it's ours. And you got this music going mostly in dog number 2, right? Because my system decodes accurately. And I'm hearing the music until Baby kills the guy, and then it goes, then the tempo on the speed of the music goes from the guy's out of it, and then they get out of the car. What did you do, baby? I'm gonna kill you, baby. And then, hold it, cops, freeze. Cops turn up and they do a little bit gun, and then Baby starts running, and then the music pans and then goes below. That's very unexpected. It goes with an antiphase because I'm not sure if the mixers know they're purposely putting something there in the mix where it's antiphase signaling, because the tracks are made up of layers and layers and layers and layers of sound. Some of them are mono, some of them are stereo, some are, you know, and they're panning and doing this with the renderer bullshitter. But I just noticed the signal just going, and I'm thinking, whoa, okay. And now I'll activate, I'll turn on my other side surround, below surround, and add a little bit more below, and it gets a little bit more musical on below me, while there's still some sound panning because there's some antiphase. And as long as you've got a decoder, a simple, I got my Dolby SA10 cheap. You could beat it better with, if I redid it, I would use a ProLogic 2X on my height 1, 2, and 3, and expand the overhead discrete along with, and have extra speakers, maybe on the side, extra speakers on the sidewalls at different height level, or I might try them on the ceiling at different positions, not randomly just thrown up there. I will just put them there, maybe say in between the other speakers, so I know the sound, hopefully with a PL2X, and it would see the signal and say, oh yeah, there's something here in the mix, I'm going to steer this over here, and then it get a little bit more musical with music, or depending on how well the sound effects are done, it might sound artistic and atmospheric with wind flowing, moving around, because when you listen to wind in real life, it's temporarily shifting up and down, sidely, diagonally. That's how wind works. But it's very difficult to duplicate that kind of psychoacoustic effect, but not impossible, but it's difficult. If mixers, you know, kind of look at ATMOS and say, well, off the bat, it's pretty flawed as it goes, but it can be perfected a little bit with, okay, we'll add on some extra decoders and then we'll do some panning and oh yeah, it's going downward now. All right, guys, all right. You know, you can do things like that. Anyway, I'm just going to check my, what's it, because I think my battery level might be getting a bit low here now. Let's have a look. 38% on the battery. And my phone's pretty hot because it's using memory. So anyway, I know those are working. I know those are working okay. Oh, they're comments, but I can't see them on the phone here, so I've got to look at the other screen. I just saw comments popping up here, and I haven't got my other glasses on because I'm pretty flawed. Oh, look, it's the Iceman. Ice, baby. Do talk about ice, baby. I don't want to talk. I'm shaking my head. What is the point of this bloody movie made 40 years later? I don't know. Let's talk about work. I don't want to talk about fucking work. I want to fly a plane and feel the needs of speed. Talking to producers, directors, put food on the table, college education. And then what they do, they kill Iceman off in the movie. Oh, bloody hell. So let's turn the fader up. There's no overhead sound yet. You got some guy talking and another guy going. Oh, there was a bit of music there, very faint in the overhead, but it was so bloody ambient. Good God, this mix is terrible. I don't like the way this looks here on the OLED. That looks awful. The neon lighting, it just looks out of place in color, tone, texture. It looks out of place. It looks tonally, color out of place. Looks like that bloody Star Wars. Oh, that's interesting. See, get a bit of overhead there with the airplane because it's overhead, yeah. It's off screen, partly off screen, but overhead. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't think my overhead is distorting. I think that might be the mix itself. So I'll just fade the level down. Yeah, I still hear that kind of distortion effect. I thought for a moment my overheads have reached their limit, but no, it's like a distortion effect put in the sound mix itself. So don't worry, everybody. Your speakers are not going into meltdown. But it's often sometimes with certain aircraft, because I've heard an actual the last actual Vulcan bomber live long and prosper. The Vulcan, yeah, the Vulcan bomber. That was an air show many years ago, and when that standing on the beach, you know, because it's sand and such, and then sand going to absorb sound wave and such, you could feel it in the chest. Damn, that it sounded like those listening to those archives of Saturn V rocket taken off, and it makes that static crackle noise, which I think is the fuel propellants in the propellants, you know, and they're kind of making this kind of bombardment of, you know, and makes that kind of crackle, raw crackle sound. And that's what the Vulcan bomber sounded like when it came along the beachfront. So sand back here, and it coming along roaring, and then suddenly went into a vertical and then incline. And it was only about maybe from where the beach sand is here to where the ocean is here, the beach sand here, and the Vulcan bomber was maybe about this position going up in on the incline. So if it failed, that fucking aircraft could have flipped over like that way and then come crashing down on everybody. Yeah, you know. Those things happen, but it just kept going and going. I was just mesmerized by the size of the aircraft and the amount of engine thrust to keep it going on the incline. Because imagine back, you sat like that, the gravity force pressing against you. Whew. Oh, it'll feel like you got someone sat on top of you. Very uncomfortable. But it had that raw crackle sound. And also, I need to test the output, because with ATMOS in cinemas and such, they use sub-bass speakers for the overheads. So you augment the low frequency. So everybody knows the physicality of speakers. You know, there's no way this speaker's going to be able to, you know, a little 8-inch or even some 10 inches, or but depending on the X factor, the X max, how far it can go. So when it's static there, you know, the voice call and that, how far it can go forward and how coming back and so forth, you know. And if you can make it a little bit more like that, and it go a bit more, and you know, and make it a little bit more, you know, then you get a little bit more, you know, potential out of it. Otherwise, if it's too narrow, you're only going to get a little out of it. You know, so you got to be wary of those sort of things, because there might be some low content on the frequency going down below 20 hertz on the overhead. I don't know. I have to put it through the frequency REM. I'd have to wire it up and do a special wiring so it goes to my THX monitor, so I can monitor it on the Spectrum Lab or the True RTA or the Room EQ Wizard, either which, I don't care, as long as I get a visual and then I can see what's going on. Does it have a frequency roll off on the overhead? Does it roll off, or does it go continuously all the way down to 5 hertz, which is roughly, I think, the specifications are, I think. And how often would they utilize the infrasonic range where you should only feel it? So you could do that with bass shakers, you know. You get more, you know, because a sub-bass speaker in a room, depending on how it's installed and coupled, so it can make some mechanical vibration in the room, but you'd have to have a special room designed for that, as well as getting the acoustical sound at the same time. So you get mechanical and acoustical sound all at the same time. Just as if I were to go on a bus, I step onto a bus there, ground, and I step onto it. First leg, I notice mechanical vibration from the engine. Next leg, and I'm inside the bus, and then I notice more of the acoustical and mechanical vibration all at the same time. Is that a little bit too much? Is that a little bit unclear? That's what movies should be, but they never get the levels right. They never always get the levels right. Sometimes it's always incorrect. But now, like earlier on, where they were in the cockpit, right? They're in the cockpit. Now you're getting sound into the cockpit on the overhead. I don't understand why this wasn't happening when they're doing their training. Oh, look, their missiles launching. Oh, that's probably CGI, because we know that's CGI. Oh, that sounded kind of okay. That was kind of okay. But is my height 1 being utilised, or is it still not height number 2? Oh. a little bit of height one, there. So you got to kind of watch the movie, listen to it all the way through. Yeah, there's a little bit of height one there. A little bit of height one active. Briefly, very brief. I'll go to the back, see if there's anything going on here at the back. Oh, they're dead as a door now. They're quiet. They're quiet. There's nothing going on there. Height number 3. I'll just stand a little bit over this way, so I'm between. It's kind of like having a left. It's kind of like having an LCR on the ceiling. If that's clear enough, yeah. Like so, like having a left, center, right on the ceiling for height 1, height 2, and height 3. And then you've got the extra channel, which is, you know, and how it works here, it kind of gives us kind of like a circle, vertical effect. Try doing that in your home cinema. But I've got to wait until I get some anti-phase going on. But some films have got it and some films don't. I mean, how many people stand this close to their overhead? But on this scene here, there was another shot where it's like the aircraft is there and the camera's underneath. There wasn't any overhead sound. So the mixers, I think they're a little bit drunk. Or the sound editor is absolutely bloody useless. Oh dear, the supervising sound editor. Isn't he supposed to supervise everything? Bloody hell, he's not doing his job very well. You know, you got to be doing it so you win an Academy Award. If this got an Academy Award, I would think, fucking hell, that was fixed. That was bloody fixed. Again, the Academy of Motion Pictures of Art and Sciences got it totally wrong again. Mark my words. This will be nominated because they'll be pushing it. There's no way this film's going to get Best Picture. Even though they'll probably try and get it nominated for Best Picture and Best Actor and Supporting Actor and Best Music Song by Lady Gaga. Mark my words. That'll be coming up in, I think nominations go out in, is it January or is it February? And the ceremony is January, February, March. I think it's April. Or was it January, February? Or was it the end of February? I forget which. I don't care because I don't watch the show anymore, period. But mark my words. Don't do sound editing anymore. They did away with that because it should only be a sound award. There shouldn't be 2 categories for sound editing and sound. That's bullshit. Just 1 award for sound. And they should hand out awards to every single person that was in the sound crew. That's what they should do. They got enough money, haven't they, the Oscars? Their net worth is bloody, a lot of money. They should be handing out every award. Everyone is involved. You take one person out of that, a keystone, and then everything collapses. Maybe that's what's happened here with the sound mix. Maybe there was someone good in it and that person got fired by Tom Cruise. You're fired. Wear your mask. Put food on the table. College education. So it seems mostly music now going in this. Oh, here they come, flying all around. But But that made no sense. Hang on, let's have another listen. Is there anything going down in the below surround? Any anti-phasing? No, just above me. No anti-phase going on there. I can switch in my other below surround, which goes on the side surround. So I can switch that on. So I can switch my other below surround on. Oh, let's play that back again. Let's mute the other channel, mute the other decoder. Have another listen to that. Yeah. Okay. I'll play that scene again, and the scene I'm looking at is up here. I'm getting very low on my battery. I can plug in a What's-it for my charger. Okay, I'm going to put the other decoder on, or the other side surrounds and the below surround, which is coming off the side surround. So my side surrounds are on, and the extra below surround channel. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But does it feel like the bloody aircraft? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Am I going to play it at a loud level? No, of course not. Because then dialogue is going to sound totally bloody unnatural then. See, that's the problem with film mixing, is the compromise with, because film mixes are bullshit, fake at the end of the day. They're fabricated. Usually typical dialogue level can go from a very soft, say 60 dB or maybe 50 dB. And the dynamics of that and the acoustical noise floor of the auditorium or the home, whatever, okay, or you're listening on headphones and you're hearing like the psychoacoustics. Because this camera can't, because I'm whispering purposely too quiet to create dynamics. Otherwise, typically dialogue level goes up to about an 85 dB level. I think it can push a little over, but then depending on what that is, I might have to do a comparison with, you know, Tom Cruise yelling and ranting in Born on the 4th of July. Big fucking erect penis when he comes back home and he's drunk and he's woken up. He's seen all the through the minutiae and fog and all the lies, and now realizes everything is a lie, and it really pissed off the character Ron Kovic, and he's totally pissed off. That actually happened. The guy came back and had a rant, and but in the dialogue in the movie, in the when I heard it in Dolby SR at UCI at Tower Park in Dolby SR, it sounded pretty realistic, you know. And he's saying penis, penis, big fucking erect penis. Now, if I'm doing that at this level, if I did it at the proper level, I'm going to have neighbours thinking, what the fuck's going on? I got to get the level up to nearly close to about maybe a 90 plus dB, and that is bloody loud. When you hear, we've all heard arguments and people and yelling and screaming and shouting at us. Sometimes it bends my ears and I feel pressure, and it just bends my ears because it's the frequency. If I wear my earplugs and so, all right, you can rant and scream and shout all you bloody want. Oh, just put a little bit more. I'll just put my ear defenders on. So there we go. Go away, shoot away, rant. I can still hear you, but you sound a bit muffled. Okay. We all go through these pressures, you know. Anyway, I've got a lot of sound memory on things. just playing this scene, go, oh yeah, missiles launching and CGI. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of that dreadful bloody James Bond movie. What was it? No Time to Listen to the bloody movie. Because I had to wear fucking earplugs in the cinema because it was deafening. I mean, too much in the mid-high range. It was deafening, unpleasing. I'll never go back to that fucking Odeon downtown. What, Bear? Come on, I know what you're thinking. You're going to sneak up and go behind this projection screen. And I heard my cat Bear at a below front angle. I heard that angle. Not that angle, that angle. That's how good my hearing is. That's how good I map sound. And all this bullshit out of Dolby Atmos rendering and mapping and overhead. Oh, you should place your speakers at 30, at 38 and 36 and 40. Fucking hell. I never heard anything like it. I worked at a fucking cinema in 1989 that used modern day overhead surround, or experimental as it was. And that's like the main large auditoriums had 8 overhead surround speakers, Electro Voice. They were EV speakers behind the screen. They were THX approved. The cinemas wouldn't. They were just standard, and they had a max SPL would be, their limit would be in the 90 dB range. So if it goes over that, you're going to hear bleed through in the other auditoriums, okay? Like you do now, because now they just turned that up. And I'll never go back to that cinema again because the levels are just, you just hear the other auditorium totally bleeding in, as well as you can feel the sound, because they put wooden floor tight against the walls. What happens there? You get sound transmission, and it's just the same like with, you got someone about 1 mile away tapping on a bloody rail line track, and you put your ear to it, or you can put a microphone to it and look at it on the RTA analyzer, and you can see the sound traveling. Or you get a piece of string, pull it tight, put a cup on it. Actually, you could do another way with using earplugs that have a filament, like a fishing line, yeah? And you put them in your ears, it's got a loop. If you were to take that earplug out here, keep this one plugged in, pull it tight and put it against the loudspeaker, guess what? Sound transmits through it. It is so distracting at that other cinema. They got sound transmission, never mind about acoustical. Fucking train wreck. They spent £7 million on that. What a waste of money. Now, there is another thing going on here that I could do. That kind of sounds, even though there's a little bit on height 1, but mostly height number 2, where the missiles are overheading the aircraft. But here's the technical flaw. I hear too much detail on those bloody missiles, really. When the camera's on the inside of the aircraft, you wouldn't hear too much of that detail. Because there again, the engineers, they're not listening. I thought they were sound technicians. Oh, good gosh. You wouldn't hear that. You wouldn't hear that top end high. You'd be hearing too much of noise of the inside of the cockpit of the aircraft. And the high end on those missiles should be a little bit more EQ'd down. They shouldn't have as much top end on it. They should make it a little bit muffled. Yeah, everyone, I can tell that these that Bright Side home theatre guy thinks, oh wow, that's great, that's exciting. But haven't you looked at it again and say, hey, if you was in that cockpit, there's no way you're going to hear those missiles with the high pitch whistling and all that. And there certainly won't be any bloody music playing as well. All you hear in real life, period, is dialogue and sound effect. That's all you hear mostly, day to day. You hardly hear music. And this bit here with the, you know, my faders, they're the levels up there. I don't know, it sounds like one of these goddamn Disney mixes. And everyone bitches and moans and points it out like, bloody hell, is this mixed by Disney? Because it sounds like a Disney mix. I could put on the movie Final Approach for the SR71, and it will knock your socks off in this THX cinema. It will knock your socks off. But when the afterburners fire, frickin' heck. Okay, he's doing a clock on the what's it? Let's get back up with these. Never known anything like it. Extension lead. And I'll plug it into the phone. That's the wrong way. Shit. Okay, I hear the phone. There's more of that kind of distorting crackle sound, and you think the speakers are distorting, but it's in the mix. Believe me, it's in the sound mix, because they're going through the canyon like the Death Star run in Star Wars: A New Hope. Dun 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 da 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 da. Yeah, maybe I'll do a meme and put a maybe I'll put a Star Wars music to this, do another video, because it's like Star Wars, and they're trying to, because they say in the movie they got to launch the missiles and it's about 2 meters or 4 meters. That's impossible, even for a computer. It's not impossible. I used to hit bullseye ramps in my T16 back home. Where's Darth Vader going to come in? Got TIE fighters coming in. I can see the YouTube videos of this coming in, mixing Star Wars X-Wing or TIE fighters coming in and then blowing the planes up. Oh dear. It's inevitable. But there's that crackle effect again, and you think the speakers are crackling, but nah. I'll turn the fader down. Yeah, it's the same crackle, so. But there's also the other possibility, because some digital soundtracks can get to a limit and they cause a digital crackle noise where the levels are just overdriven, and it kind of makes a kind of different type of signature sound, a sort of thing. It's on movies like Apollo 13, on the right surround channel. This is where the boosters are all firing, and there's a little kind of pop crackle sound for about 1 second or so. And it's also on Armageddon when, you know, all the space station starts breaking up and debris are all coming down at the other space shuttle. And there's a little crackle sound going on there in the surround channel. I don't think it's going on in any of the LCR channels. I can't think of any other movies where there's a digital crackle distortion noise, but this isn't. This is purposely mixed to give it that that distortion aircraft crackle effect. Unless you start playing it really over the top, and then you're going to cause, and then you can watch your amplifiers going into clipping, blink, 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 clip, 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 clip. When you see a lot of clip, 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 that's bad. If you occasionally saw it, that's okay, but you need to back it down. You're not going to prove anything. You're going to damage your hearing, and just for a rubbish movie starring Tom Cruise. But I just don't understand why they're utilising a bit more of the inside the canopy, inside the cockpit on this part of the movie. Bear, will you calm down? Well, that makes no bloody sense. What the bloody hell? All the missiles hit the ground. But why are they sounding on the overhead when it's the image is down there? The image is down there on the ground, and it's all sounding on the overheads. Even though you turn on all the other speakers, and it is where it is, but it makes no sense on the overhead at this point. That makes no sense at all. No sense at all. It's just randomly a drunk sound mixer. Oh, I need more to drink here. Oh, move the pan pot a little bit over this way. Oh, how's that sound, director? Oh, yeah. Wow, that's great. The audience are going to like it. Oh, bandits are coming in, the bandits. The bandits. Now, if I wanted to make height number 2 expanding, that's piss easy. What I need to do is, like I say, I can beat it by adding on a ProLogic 2X, a PL2X, because then you got the primary channels going in, right, left and right, and then I'd still utilize the center one for dog number 2, right, middle, yeah. And then I'll use the side surround and the rear back surround on that PL2X, and then put them up there on the ceiling, the speakers, and have a listen to where the sound is, because there will be this kind of shifting sound. And let me see, I could expand it a little bit more, so I can switch it to go in kind of bit like Sonic Hole Overhead Surround, because Sonic Hole Overhead Surround, that came around with only one movie, where Dolby Digital, We Were Soldiers, SRD, mixed with the help of Dolby Labs, whatever, and Sound Deluxe and Todd A.O. And what they did there was to utilize a cluster of speakers on the ceiling, literally a cluster. There's been no actual picture, only a diagram that showed an artist impression, but never an actual picture. And the movie was allegedly mixed with a specific antiphase on the stereo surround, the side surrounds, because that's all the decoders do in the SA10. It'll add a back surround, which is matrix, a CBS, a center back surround. My idea. 1989. And I passed that idea on to Dolby Labs in 1998. Go figure. I had my thing going. I could have had it going 1995 when Dolby AC3 came along, but AC3 Laserdisc players were bloody expensive. The AVRs themselves, and I think I can't. That's a bit pricey, you know. Today you can buy all that vintage, cheap. I don't know what it is, Bear, but you're shedding your fur. Bear, your fur is shedding. So I could do. I could kind of been thinking about tinkering with the idea of putting more speakers on the ceiling and utilizing those in a specific way where I can say, like, develop my own different overhead surround format, like a Dolby CP200 was designed really as the end game player for 3570mm, so it can do pretty much any sound format, and you can program it to do other new sound formats, which most didn't come along. The CP200 was introduced in 1980, just a little bit just before The Empire Strikes Back came out. Oh wow! Can you imagine The Empire Strikes Back playing for a CP200 in your home cinema? No, not many home cinemas have got a CP200 now. Wow, that's how The Empire Strikes Back's supposed to sound. So it utilised past sound formats that have been mostly developed in 1978 with Superman the movie, format 43, because they had other formats like 40, 41, 42, and then 43. And then later formats like 44 and 45 and 46 came along. When Dolby SR came along, they introduced other formats, providing you got specific plugins in the rack where you can switch to Dolby SR. That's 6 SR cards for your magnetic tracks, where you don't have to open up the processor and take the cards out. The A-type card, which is commonly used, you won't have to pull those out. You can keep them in there and add another and do special wiring, and all you have to do is this film print, okay, it's format such and such, right, program that into the CP200, done, it's ready to play. But with these movies, there's still something, you can't say it's still in the infancy, and it's still bloody hell, fucking hell, 10 years of infancy, fuck off, come on, pulling my leg, fuck's sakes. I could redesign my overhead to be way more, than my ego. There, I said it. How many people have got the balls to say that then, huh? So I could tell most people, it's their ego. I can admit to that. But how many other people can? Because they don't want to, because they choose not to, because they feel like it's, well, fucking hell, what's the big deal? All you have to do is listen to the film mix, and then you think, there's something going on there. I think I can make it better, because how it's sounding with what Dolby Labs say, yeah, your speakers should go this position, and Dolby and Oro, it should go this position, and DDSX, it should go this position. If you listen to those sound mixes, okay, just generally listen to Aura, DDSX, ATMOS, just with the overheads, nothing else, just the overheads, you're going to say there's not much real difference, unless it's an actual difference totally with the actual sound mix itself. But you listen to it in general, it's like, it's more or less the same. Why all these bloody sound formats, for Christ's sake? You know, it's like the same with Dolby SRD versus DTS. There's no difference. It's a 6-channel. The only difference is SDDS. 200 movies that were only used for 8-channel. All the rest are just the same as SRD and DTS. No wonder some cinemas didn't want to hardly use or play it, because, you know, why would you want to bother playing a 6-channel SDDS mix when you know? And the other thing is, with 35mm, it was great, because at the end of the day, 35mm was really pushed to its limit with regards to how many sound formats it can hold on that bit of film. And you get a UHD disc, they take up a whole lot of it with bloody other language tracks, when that disc or discs should be distributed to certain countries. So if it's sent to Italy, it should only be Italy Dolby Atmos, yeah, and maybe you have an optional English track, and then have other additional tracks, maybe like a DTS, an Aura, you know, a conventional proper mix, 424 matrix mix on it, you know. So, but it doesn't make sense, you know, because it's all on the optical disc, and when film is film, the SRD, SDDS is down the side of the 35mm. So you've got 4 channels down this side, 4 channels down the other side. If one of those tracks or the film got damaged, then you're going to have problems with the sound playback, because the decoding's going to get a little bit messed up and it won't decode, and it'll be a bit of a mess. But it'll go past that eventually, and then, you know, SDDS 35mm has to be handled very carefully so you don't drag film along the bloody projection room floor. When you take it off the cake platter, you keep it up here, and then over the rollers and all that, and then up to the projector, and then back down to the cake platter, and then you go over to the projector and then start lacing up. Never drag film along the floor, because you'll pick dirt, dust and hairs up, and then that goes through the bloody film gate onto the sprockets, and then you're cleaning all that shit off. But projectors usually get cleaned every time, before and after every movie that is shown. They always get cleaned, so they're always spotless, almost. You go in there with magnifying glass, you think, oh, look, there's a hair there. Oh, get a pair of tweezers. I got you. Right, I got you. There we go. You'll probably get some projectionists like that are like really clinical. Oh, that sound there going through the bridge. Because I know what it sounds like when you go under a bridge. You get a kind of, because the what happens there is the sound waves are going up, and then they reflect and then come back down very quick, and you get this kind of like, you could close your eyes and go and be a passenger or be on a coach, and then you just listen, and it's just, oh, I've just gone under a bridge without even looking, or you've gone into a tunnel, because you know that what the sound sounds like. without seeing it. But was height number 1 being utilised there? Because again, because I've got no visual levels here, I had to lower the levels down a little bit on the height number 2. I had to lower it down on the AVR. So you got up here on the AVR, you've got a control, and it won't come up on the screen at the moment because you've got to have something playing, because the decoder thinks everything is switched off, which I think is pretty stupid. See, if I turn it on there, right, that's the only menu you get: dialogue, picture and zone. Okay, if I play, back it up, and then go back in it, get channel level. So I'll just pause it there. So I've got my channel level. So I had to tailor the levels a little bit, and they're all equal levels. They're not random. They're all equal. So if I bring that back up again, see, it won't come up. So you've got to have something playing, which I think is pretty stupid on this Denon and the Marantz. I don't know if it's on every AVR like that, but I think that's a pretty stupid bloody thing. So I got -5, -5, -5 on LCR. Turned them down a little bit. I turned this sub bass down a bit because I thought, it's just going to be a little bit. The on screen doesn't stay too long there. This only affects the individual channel video mode. So if I go to another video mode, it'll all be 0 dB. I'll just turn the fader down a bit. And the other thing was noticing the rear back surround was a bit on the soft side. I thought, bloody hell, it's a bit soft. Is the levels wrong on my system? Because I only did a level check last night, putting pink noise through and going through, because the sides and the back surround are still going on a Crown amplifier, and I can check the levels on the VU meters on the Crown Architect for the input level and the output levels. So, you know, I was checking everything was all equal, all level, with pink noise, sine wave tone. So I know they were okay, but when it came to the film mix, it was like a bit too soft on the back surround. But sometimes they make it blaring bloody loud than the side surrounds. So you've got to kind of look at it and tailor the levels. I tailor the levels. Otherwise, you're going to notice it. You get too much acoustical frequency masking effects, and then wouldn't even hear the bloody things. This also reminds me of the movie Firefox, where he takes the aircraft down in a canyon where there's snow and ice, and eventually, you know, you got the other MiG chasing him, and eventually he comes up to a cliff wall, and then pitches the aircraft up into an incline before it, you know, that kind of reminded me, that scene in the movie reminded me of Star Wars. Because also done by the visual effects wizard John Dykstra, who did Star Wars and Firefox. So I think what you spare change is hearing. So I could look back at his video. I know what he's hearing in his room. I know what he's listening to. So very rarely you're going to see anything happening on height number 1. It's mostly height number 2 that's active. But if you've got it switched into the other channels, switch it off and it'll go into the other channels, mostly as a phantom center most of the time, and it doesn't sound good. It sounds hokey. All these zone height channels, they need to all be independently stereoized, but can be very difficult mixing, very difficult. But this movie was delayed by a year and a half or so they could have put a little bit more potential into it, but it doesn't seem like that doesn't seem impressive with the flare. That doesn't seem impressive with the flare there. So where he uses the flares to give a glare effect and kind of trick the missile into exploding. Yeah, the flare effect there. Now, partly the image is on screen, so therefore sound would be up front on screen. When the flares are the flare, the chaffee. Let me turn the center channel on. Everyone defending. Everyone defending. So it's kind of got that sound. What's it like on the left, and what's it like on the left channel? Yeah, I heard a difference. I heard a slight time frequency difference there in the mix there on the left and the center. What's it like on the right channel? Okay, I'll play LCR, common free screen there with the flare chaffee being engaged on screen. That is on screen. Everyone defending. Ooh, that sounds cool. See, the other channels seem to be okay, but the use of overhead is just pitiful. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Mostly, this movie would have played in most cinemas in 7.1 and very few cinemas in 5.1, depending on the cinema decoder. And any cinema that's got a CP850, it would have been playing in Dolby ATMOS. But the thing there with Dolby ATMOS is everybody have got it in their mind, brainwashed, mind you, brainwashed, thinking there's going to be overhead all the bloody time. So that's why they flock. You know, the sheep all line up. Meh, 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 meh. And then they flock it and they go in. You see, they lure you in thinking there's going to be a whole lot of overhead going on, when most of the time you're not going to notice. You think you hear it, but mostly you're noticing the side surrounds and a bit of confusion because you get frequency masking. Very few cinemas would even, I would say, adjust the levels, like say, well, we're going to adjust the levels accordingly for this film, because I think the processors are clever and you should be able to program it, that feature, to play, you know, because maybe the mixers and the director and the producer, they're wrong, okay? Because everything's playing and they're all I'm bloody hearing here with Dolby Lab specs and all this bullshit. I'm hearing a load of bloody acoustical frequency masking. And they say, hear the whole picture or feel the whole picture. Is that the Dolby slogan, you know, with the Atmos unwrapping? That sounds pretty more impressive here. Not deafening like how it is down at the Odeon BH2, where I've got to put my fingers in my ears. Good God. It sounds better unwrapping it here with the going from height 1, height 2, height 3 down the sides. And if I utilize the blow surround matrix, it's going to be, whoa, you haven't heard the unwrapping. You thought you have. Just go and get an extra decoders. Don't have to be like mine. They don't have to be SA10. Go and get some cheap Onkyo on eBay. Get 3 of them. And then just wire them up to your main AVR onto the surround output. It's simple. It's simple. A child, a fucking 12-year-old can fucking do it. I wired up my first home cinema when I was about, and this is a VHS, mind you. I wired up my first home cinema back in 1982, and my dad wasn't very pleased. At first he said, I told you not to touch this. but have a listen. Oh, that's good. Oh, what did you do there, son? Oh, I took this Y lead and this RCA phono. I connected it to the VHS player on the mono. It was only a mono VHS with a Dolby noise reduction B type, and connected it into the amplifier and put the speakers on. No, because the Y lead, that's it, because it was going on a mono output and then into a Y lead connected, so it's sending mono, that's it. And it was coming out both speakers at the same time. So it was only in mono. And that's not bad, because even back then, even still some cinemas were 35mm. Some were only still geared up in mono. No, they didn't have a Dolby CP. Would have been at the time a CP. CP50 would have been the most common one. The CP100 was phased out during when the CP200 came out, and very few cinemas then would have still had a CP100 and probably upgraded maybe to the CP200, given if they could afford it, because it was pretty expensive processor. So still, even then, still some cinemas were only geared up for mono, and very few were geared up for Dolby stereo. And there were very few VHS players around the time that were stereo, linear stereo, because hi-fi stereo was at least about a few more years in the middle 80s until that came around. I got a rare VHS JVC in my kitchen where it could do linear stereo and hi-fi stereo track. So if the hi-fi track would have failed due to damage on the hi-fi track, because if that gets a little bit damaged or worn out, it reverts down to, on most typical other VHS players, to linear mono, whereas on mine it would just revert down to linear stereo, so it still keeps the action going. So it's kind of like having, when I think as a projectionist, retired, it's like having a Dolby SRD track that's got damage, and the Dolby S is very quick, very bloody fast. You don't hardly notice, and it is switching almost like that. You'd hardly notice. All you notice is the difference in the soundtrack level slightly, but you don't notice any delay in the sound. It's got very quick switching, because if you got delay in sound, then the audience are going to get really pissed off and think, fucking hell, this print is totally knackered. And so what goes on there would switch from that's why they call it SRD, because Dolby SR had been where that it's super exceeding it. So it's just a switch. But depending on the cinema itself, right, it may only have A-type cards. So it would be switching from digital to A-type, digital to A-type. Doesn't matter, as long as there's a noise reduction there to filter out some of the hiss and crackle and that on the optical sound. Who cares? Wow, that sounds good. And of course, I've got my low surround on my other side surround decodering. I'm just going to put the LCR on. I like to put the left center, right center on, because there might be a bit more action going on there with 5 screen wide. It just makes the channels a bit more bass as well. When I use the 5 screen, get a bit more bass. Let's just put the LCR and we fires to Chaffee again. That's cool. But I don't like weapons of war. I do not like weapons of war. I do not like it. I detest violence.
Here it comes! Radar warning! Smoke in the air, Phoenix, break right!
Emergency Jefferson! Dagger 3 defending!
Here comes another one! Dagger 1
Emergency Jefferson! Dagger 3 defending!
Here comes another one! Dagger 1 defending!
Wow.
Dagger 1 defending!
Wow. I'm not sure I haven't got the dynamic range compressor switched on. It doesn't sound very dynamic. It sounds impressive.
Phoenix, break right!
Emergency Jefferson! Dagger 3 defending!
Here comes another one!
No, my dynamic range compressor is switched in the off position. It sounds compressed. The sound mix, it sounds a bit compressed.
Dagger 1 defending!
But I can make it bloody loud if I want to, because I can make it really bloody loud. I can make it really loud if I want to. I got up to, not that I would, because I'll damage the speakers literally. This THX Cinema will go up to about 38, well, it's about 38 kilowatt. So, if I want a little bit more range, and my amplifier bass range at the moment, they're down at this position. I can tune them to go up a little bit more, and I can use an additional crossover on the Behringer NX amplifiers and put up a very steep crossover slope, so I can take it down from about the 500 hertz range, because they're crossing over on the THX at around about 500 hertz, and the THX crossover slope at 500 hertz is pretty steep, bloody impressive, bloody steep. I think at least goes down about 35 dB. That's bloody steep. That's ahead of its time.
Rooster status! Dagger 1 defending!
I like the way the actors are trying to give the impression of G-force. Because it would feel like you got some sort of invisible weight pressing against your body. Just like, when you go on those roller coaster rides and you feel this invisible energy pressing against you. Because, quite frankly, I live quite comfortable without that. What am I going to try this home cinema? Try and create a G-force effect. That ain't gonna happen. No way. It's impossible. Not unless I got a bloody carousel or something turning around very fast and then throwing up at the same time. It reminds me, I want to play the movie Moonraker when he goes into the centrifuge. In Moonraker, the centrifuge and the G-force energy's building up. Take care of Mr. Bond. See that some harm comes to him. Oh dear. Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to bloody die. Why didn't he just shoot him? Oh, you're no use to me, Mr. Bond. Da-da, da-da, now we can all go home. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh dear. Yeah, I like that Shafi effect. I'm going to try the 5 screen. I'm going to try the 5 screen, what it sounds like on the 5 screen. But turn off, just turn my left center, right center on. Providing I got things all sound balanced and so forth. Because I was running a different movie last night, so. I'll just have to play it by ear, I guess. Yeah, I'm still getting a bit of noise ratio there, a bit of noise ratio on the. But I'm not getting too much noise ratio on my left and center and right. I'm getting a bit of noise ratio on the left center, right center. Bit of hiss, typical PA, public PA hiss. That's typical in all. That's typical in anything that's PA equipment. But I can fix that. I can always go in and correct it. Because when you hear hiss in audio, how do you, with your home theaters, how do you go around to analysing and measuring it? If you got a THX sound system like I got, or a common cinema booth monitor, you can put the sound outputs safely into your computer and then monitor it. Because most people that do a REM or anything on their AVR, even though the AVR can sort of talk through the HDMI, there should be a way so you can mute channels and then do a frequency sweep with your left and then do your center channel and then do your right channel, your left surround, your right surround, back surround, left to right, overhead, left to right, and then the middle, left to right, back one, left to right. So you do individual frequencies and they all should have the same characteristic. But if they're one's higher than the other, then you know the levels need to be adjusted on the decoder or the amplifier or whatever, so you problem solve it until you found where it is, and then get the level, come down into it, overlays. Because if one channel is going to be higher than the other, then you're going to have problems with that film mix. It's always going to sound too damn loud on one channel. They have to be transparent, overlaid. When you do a REM, not a REM, a Odyssey, Dirac, I don't care which. Take it from me. I've persevered with bloody auto EQ. It doesn't know I got a THX sound system in my rack. It doesn't know that that bass channel has got a delay on it, which is prefixed. So your bass driver's up here, and your high frequency driver's back here on the compression driver in the cinema, like my cinema JBLs behind the screen. It doesn't know that. What you got to do is delay the bass and kind of give it that effect, and then you get time alignment. Theoretically, it doesn't know that. It doesn't know that, and not what. Every single time I use it, what does it bloody do? It puts a high freak, because if you measure it electronically, it's got a dip. If I take the delay off, I don't know where the delay is on the THX, right? But if I use a Behringer, the DCX, even though I'm going through the DCX, but I'm going full spectrum through the DCX to the THX, because I got fed up listening to this. There's a certain artifact noise on the DCX, and I got so fed up listening to it, I thought I'll just go back to the THX sound system. You know, go and watch some of the videos on YouTube where George Lucas talks briefly, or you got Tom Holman briefly. I actually spoke to Tom Holman. He was quite impressive. I had one in the home, and we're talking about it and other things and blah 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 and all this blah blah blah. I haven't been in contact with him now for about a couple of months now, but talking to Tom Holman email for about 4 months, I think, and he seems like a down to earth, you know. He even thought that Jurassic Park 3 or Jurassic World sucked at the THX cinema in Los Angeles. The THX Ultra had echo in the auditorium. He didn't like the echo, had a noisy air conditioner. Bloody hell, well, that doesn't surprise me, an air conditioner. And the movie sucked. They don't make movies like that anymore, do they? Oh dear. I mentioned something else to him, and he sort of thought, I think you got something going there. I can't remember what that was now. I think it might be something to do with the center channel and doing a specific thing with the center channel to make the LCR along with the center sound a lot better than it is. And it's just a simple thing. If you use outboard equipment connected with your amplifiers and so forth, you can do a little bit more than what the AVR is designed to do. You can go beyond that, and you can get a little bit more flexibility rather than your hands being tied behind your bloody back and you can't do anything about it. You're stuck there banging your head against the wall. You know you could do something, but the AVR can't do anything. But anyway, the auto EQ, rubbish. It just keeps adding a high boost at 500 hertz because I've got a dip that's going down electronically, and then when it comes into the room, it's almost flat, yeah, on the RTA, but it adds an excessive boost. And then what the hell am I listening to? It sounds like my speakers are honking. They shouldn't do that. If you purposely wired a passive crossover, right, on your speakers, purposely wired it the opposite direction for your LCR, and then keep it all okay for your side surrounds and back surround, and just do a frequency sweep, left, center, right, side surrounds and back surround. Never mind the overhead, because that's a little extra more time of doing the bloody, it takes 20 bloody minutes. And then you'll look at the result, and it's going to add an excessive boost because it doesn't know. You can't stop the bloody thing, pause it, and then think, there's something not right here. Bottom line of the story is use EQ. It's a lot easier. It's a lot difficult. It takes a lot longer time, but you get better results. End of story. Auto is only designed for people that are in a hurry, in a rush. Like, what time? Oh, I've got to go out. I've got to go. Blah, 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 blah. You know, that's for people that are in a bloody hurry, and they only want to show off they got a home theatre when in actual fact you haven't. Please go round there, and I'm listening. Fucking hell, that channel's too fucking over loud. I can hardly hear the bloody dialogue. No, what have you got behind the screen here? Oh my goodness gracious. You got mismatched speakers. No wonder, there's your problem. You got that tiny little center channel, you got these tower speakers. Rubbish. Load of rubbish. Just get some cinema PA speakers. That's what movies are mixed on, and that's what they're played back on. They're bundles on eBay that you can go and buy cheap. And then you can have a piece of the action. If I purposely set my crossover down here, on the hair down here, if I purposely, because I can still set the crossover and put a filter in, like they're turned off, so they're flat, they're playing neutral. I can turn them on and then bring the sound and squash it with a 48 dB here, a 48 or 24 or a 12 or a 6 dB. So it's flat like that, and then it's 6 dB, 12, 24. I think there's an 18 dB as well. And then you got 48 dB, which is like a brick wall. And you only get a little bit of sound passing through either way. I could squash it down like that and then play that in the center with full range going on left and right, and the center channel is going to sound too damn quiet. And other times you've got to have level meters so you can see what's actually going on in the bloody mix, as well as listening to frequency of dialogue, of sound effects going on. Sometimes they might be a little bit too over the top. As long as they don't go, so if you've got dialogue that's blah 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 blah, and you got with the sound effects going, you're going to get occasionally a little bit of acoustical frequency masking, just as you would in real life. You know, that's why you've got someone driving the car, I'm the passenger, and inside the vehicle, measure it with a sound level meter or an RTA, and you'll see the characteristic of that frequency response of that specific vehicle. Every vehicle has got a different type of signature sound with the engine. So you can put a microphone in a car, drive, you can have several motor cars, use your REM or whatever, but it's a very difficult task to achieve, to get a result. And you can see if you do it right, you'll see the characteristic. So if you drive the car at 10 mile an hour, so you got car A, car B, you drive them 10 mile an hour, so it says on the meter, and then 20 mile, do separate videos, and then 30 mile, 40, 50, up to the legal speed road limit, mind you. Don't do it, otherwise you'll get pulled over and get a ticket. Don't want that now, do we? But if you monitor, and then you'll see the actual characteristic of that vehicle. They do the same thing when they test vehicles in anechoic chambers. They put that car into an anechoic chamber, test the engine noise and all that. Other people have customized engines to say, bloody hell, this engine's reverberating bloody ridiculously. And all they do is put in some absorbers, like rubber, on the engine to clamp down, calm down that shuddering. And then they'll do a demonstration like Jurassic Park and stick a glass of water on the engine bonnet, on the bonnet, and then see it before and after. So you see what it looks like before, and it's jittering around quite a bit, and then after it's done, and it's got, they've minimized, they've reduced it, and that's engineering. I'm not a mechanic, but I'm not stupid. Yeah, let's put. So I've got to turn the my decoders on the Dolby SDU4s. Yeah, of course that flare effect is going through LCR, so I'm going to get a bit of half center sound, so it's going to flow across the 5 screens. So I'll put the other channels on, providing they're level matched.
Warning, smoke in the air, Phoenix, break right.
Emergency Jackson, Deck 3 defending.
Here comes another one. Everyone defending.
Wow.
Warning, smoke in the air, Phoenix, break right.
Emergency Jackson, Deck 3 defending.
Here it comes. Radar warning, smoke in the air, Phoenix, break right.
Emergency Jackson, Deck 3 defending.
Here comes another one. Everyone defending.
Wow, wicked.
Rooster status.
That sounds good.
Radar warning, smoke in the air, Phoenix, break right.
Emergency Jackson, Deck 3 defending.
Here comes another one. Everyone defending.
Wow.
Rooster status.
I haven't got very good lighting behind the screen. It's just enough. It's just enough for me to see where to position the microphone, where I need to position the microphone on axis with the HF horn. That's pointing that way, or I can point it off axis or that angle or whatever. Or I could put a cluster of microphones up on a single HF horn, so they're over at the side, one at the middle, one, so I can map it. There, you little shit, fucking cunt. My cat Bear, just using my fucking carpet as a scratching post.
Oh my God.
It sounded pretty good up front. This is the problem with other home cinemas is, you know, all this bullshit with about placing your screen and where your seating is. When was the last time most people went into cinemas and looked at all the different sizes of auditoriums, and then you could see where the front row seating is versus where the screen is, and the distance measured. If you go in there with a tape measure, you know, measure the distance, go figure. You know that room is a little larger than your basement, even though it's a boothless small auditorium that may be about 40 seats. You measure the distance from the screen. So theoretically, I was thinking about putting an extra third row in my home cinema, but unless I can get the same seat, which is a bit awkward to find any more of these iron rocker seats, there's no way I'm doing it. But the problem there being is the back row would have to be elevated up a little bit higher. Not that it's a problem. I only have to go up by about 8 inches, I think. The most all I need is 8 inches. So it's adding another 8 inches on the back. And of course, the seat riser or what, I'd have to throw it out and rebuild it. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal as long as I've got 8 inches above each. The back row is 8 inches above the middle, and the middle row is 8 inches above the front row. So as long as I've got 8 inches, it's okay. As long as then you've got a line of sight to the screen. Never mind the OLED, because that's only really viewable for the front row, not the back row, because you see the seat there. You can't, you know.
Deploying countermeasures.
Deploying countermeasures. Boom.
Deploying countermeasures.
I like that. Deploying countermeasures.
Boom. Stand on your 6 resist. Deploying countermeasures.
That button doesn't do anything. That button I pressed there only deactivates the fader, because it goes onto the remote fader that may be a little nearer to the projection port window, and then you got the cinema processor over on the other end of the projection room. So you've got a remote fader, so you activate that, so then you can look through the port window while adjusting the fader. Otherwise, you got to be like Mr. Fantastic Stretch guy, you know, and stretch over, or maybe use a bit of inspiration, use a bit of imagination, you know, maybe a broomstick with a bit of blue tack stuck on the end of it, and then reach over and you can stick it against the fader, and then gradually turn the stick, and then it'll turn the dial. Who's going to do that in projection? It's a fucking broomstick.
Take a look, defendant.
Talk to me, Bob.
We're great, Phoenix. We're great.
Whoa. Oh, that missile coming overhead there.
Talk to me, Bob.
We're great, Phoenix. We're great. 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock.
Oh, that was pretty cool. Not that it was like a real missile, because it would be a real missile would have an incredible SBL level from the thrust, and it would deafen you. But it was just a woof.
Talk to me, Bob.
We're great, Phoenix. We're great. 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Booster, 2 more on your 6. Take a look, defendant.
Talk to me, Bob.
We're great, Phoenix. We're great. 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Booster, 2 more on your 6. Dagger 2 defending.
You're going to be out of your flares in a moment. It's amazing looking at the flares, because I was watching an air show this year, the air show on YouTube, and I couldn't really see very clearly. I could tell they were biplanes flying around because of the speed, and they had such a heck of a lot of pyrotechnics on that aircraft, because it looked like something out of another Earth encounter, Alien 51 sort of thing, because you couldn't really see it clear on the video. It looked like something out of this world, and all the flares, and then they start releasing like flares off the airplane, off the biplane, while it's still got all this other glare effect moving around on screen. It looked good on camera, because you couldn't see the detail very well. But if you were to see it in actual detail, you'd see, But yeah, it's just like when they release all these flares, and you know, to distract the missile and explode the missile before it hits the aircraft.
Payback, Sam on your nose. Dagger 40 defending. 2 6. Tally, tally.
Talk to me, Bob.
Dagger 2 defending. Strike right. Dagger 2 defending. Shit, I'm out of flares. Rooster, evade, evade.
oh, that was pretty good. That worked. That worked. That kind of sounded work with the everything else and then playing. That sort of work where he inverted the aircraft and flipped it over. Just turn my backs around on because they've been on mute.
Rooster, evade, evade! I can't shake them, they're on me, they're on me! No!
Dagger 1 is hit! I repeat, Dagger 1 is hit! Maverick is down!
Status!
Oh, he's crashed and burned, and it wasn't pretty. That's a line from Top Gun, isn't it? Crashed and burned, and it wasn't pretty. So, it's kind of okay in 5-screen matrix wide. They say some say a Trinov can do left center, right center, but gosh golly, the stupidity and the amount of money you got to spend just to get that, and listening to even front wide, left and right on the AV on the Denon, very disappointing. At least it was disappointing on Midway. Load of rubbish. Oh yeah, occasionally it was like a bit of and I'm thinking, what is that it? And that was just during the first attack where the aircrafts are coming down on Pearl Harbor doing the bombing raid, and there was just occasional few. If I were to stopwatch that and then add up the time, oh, it's going to be disappointing. I'm thinking, is that it? And I'm thinking, I wonder what SDDS sounded like with left center, right center, because I've never heard it. I might have the processors in the home, but I've never heard an SDDS 8. And like I say, when you go to a cinema, where do you sit? You can see them. If you liked the movie and you liked it really well, you might want to sit next time, front row and center. Front and center. March it on. Come on. Front and center. And the perspective of the stereo sound width, imaging and so forth that you would hear at the front row is like, I call it I call it something like wide and wild or something, because it's like putting on the headphones and then you listen to everything. It's like it's all in phase and frequency and so forth. Yeah, because think about it. When you're in the room, you're listening to your typical home cinema. Everything's a little bit undone, and it's kind of, you got to twine and sew and needle thread it and get it all, and that's with manual EQ. You can't beat it with auto. You can try and then see what the results are, and then you're going to say, where the bloody hell's the bass gone? It's nothing like what it sounds like in the cinema where it's still got bass. There's a trick. If you had an additional outboard processing, you can add on a low pass filter and then just rise it up, and then you'll retain your bass again. You'll get your bass back, while everything else in the frequency range will be pretty much flat as the auto can get it. But you can add a elevation there, or you could just do the opposite and put a high pass filter in and come down to a certain point and then just lower everything down and just turn the amplifier level up. You get the same result, as long as you keep in mind that the amplifier is going to clip at a certain point. You got to know where the levels are. With every AVR and all that, you don't know where the bloody levels are. You haven't gotten a clue. Most people have got, most home cinemas setups haven't got a clue where the bloody clipping level's going to occur. You've got to watch those levels. You've got to run your pink noise, do your checks, and make sure you're within a 10 dB tolerance of safety. Otherwise, you're going to clip the bloody amplifier, cause the distortion overload that's going to go into your speaker, and eventually you're going to damage the speaker. That is it. When they do testings in cinemas, they're played at stupid levels, but they still got to keep a safety margin. Otherwise, they'll clip the bloody amplifier. Eventually, you will get a sound mix that's going to come along, and it's going to be a little bit more higher level. And you've got to keep a level. You've got to keep an eye on this stuff. You can't just rush in and play the bloody movie. You got to do it slowly, rehearse it. And you think, okay, I can take it up a little bit. Is it a little bit toppy in the range going from 1 kilohertz upward to maybe about 8 kilohertz range? Because at about 8 kilohertz, our hearing, you need to put a high frequency boost in up there so you can hear those top sounds that are above 8,000 kilohertz. Otherwise, you wouldn't notice it. They'll be flying under your radar. You wouldn't notice it. And you think putting speakers up on the ceiling and doing the angles and this, that, and blah, blah, blah. Oh my goodness gracious. I've heard all that before. I heard that in 1989 at UCI when I was projectionist. I heard it at Star Wars when it played downtown in the Odeon upstairs on the first day, while it also played in screen 2 because it played in 2 screens. It commandeered because it was so goddamn popular. And by the second week it played, the Odeon downtown, or the Gaumont, it was chock-a-block. 3 performances. You'd be lucky to get in to see it. You'd have to come back the next day or the next few days later, depending on your work schedule or what you're doing. It was chock-a-block. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. They had to, the police, they had to bring the police in to marshal the freaking audience, the queue, the public, because it was getting out of control. It's not like the Beatles are playing there, even though they did before my time. But, you know, it's like, bloody hell, it's only a movie. Alfred Hitchcock. It's only a movie. Bloody hell. But, you know, first day I saw Star Wars, I heard that Star Destroyer overhead. I didn't realise, a sense, you know, sound in the auditorium, and, you know, and then went back another week later with a group of children my age and a group. And we saw it in, we were in Gaumont number 2 downstairs. Gaumont 2 downstairs, the 1960s speakers behind the screen, LCR. They might have been late 60s and such. More on the overhead ups for theirs later in the live video. The auditorium surround speakers were left half, right half. That is like my home cinema. They go down the side wall and on the back wall, and that plays the same sound coming in. Plus, there were 6 strategically placed overhead surround. 2 at the back of the auditorium in the ceiling, and there are pictures on the internet where I can point out and say that's where one of the original overhead surround speaker is. There's another picture here where someone's taken a picture, and there is one of the other. But what they did when they refurbished the auditorium in '89, dividing walls and plasterboard timber and all that, and the original screen downstairs was that big. It then became VHS letterbox. I kid you not. That was unwatchable. It was like, you might as well watch a bloody movie at home on TV, for God's sakes. It went from that down to bloody that. It was pitiful. Because the walls that they put in with the shoebox auditoriums, they had walls going in, you know, so that the light throw from the projection can't go wide anymore. Even though it's going long throw, distant, but it can't go wide angle anymore because there will be walls down the side where they got the other auditoriums. And so therefore the light angle has got to be narrowed. Therefore the image is going to be crap. Ugh, I hate that bloody. Plus the bloody seating that was so damn close, it was pushed a little bit more closer to what they call a stage. A stage is not necessary in a cinema. It's totally overrated. It's even overrated in a home cinema. You don't need a bloody wooden stage in front of your bloody room. It's unnecessary. It's going to cause acoustical sound issues and everything, and it's totally unnecessary. Just keep, if you get your screen kind of sidewall to sidewall and get it almost down to floor level, but not too close to the floor, and then a little bit near to the ceiling, and then put some aesthetics in and so forth. Just kind of like the Empire Leicester Square, because the Empire Leicester Square, in my opinion, had by far the best looking screen that I have ever seen in a cinema, period. And no longer exists anymore, sadly. No longer exists. All they got is a shitty Limax with another shitty Limax behind the other wall. It's kind of like the abomination of Limax. And they got sound leakage. And that cost £11 million or something. And I've never been there, never gone back to the Empire since it got gutted. But when they did that to the Odeon, I never, hardly ever went in that screen again because it was just awful. I'll go into the upstairs auditorium, but like I say, they had that pretty well surroundly covered, and that was just playing Dolby Stereo 424 Matrix. Think about it. Because if you were to play it in the home and then tinker around with the speakers and try and get it a little bit more immersive, so you've got sound coming in from below, the sides and above, all simultaneously, and then you've got to balance the levels, measure it with your EQ and measure it electronically as well, and get the levels, and then listen to sine wave tone frequencies, 40, 30, 50, 60, 500, do a frequency suite, blue in the bloody face with a single microphone, set up multiplex microphoning as well, and do another frequency sweep until you're bloody blue in the face and sick and tired of doing it. Me, I'm not. But it's bloody exhausting work. Bloody exhausting. I'm not trying to say I'm liking all this Limax going on, the Limax aspect ratio on this movie. Because it looks like I'm watching a widescreen aspect ratio. Because if you put a widescreen aspect ratio on, you get the same black bars at top and bottom, and it's like watching you know, it doesn't fit. 16:9 TVs are rubbish. They do have 21.9 ultra wide, but the largest size I've only seen on those is not even 50 inches, I don't think. And I think there's no point buying one of those now, is there? Because they're more designed or used for computers. And I think, why are they singling it out and using it for that? You know, when that aspect ratio would, on a bigger, it would work. It would work. And you don't need Michael Bay to try and explain it. I've got a bit of fright stage here. I've got to leave. Well, thank you, Mr. Bay, for that informative information there on our Samsung uh, ultra curved widescreen TV. Does everybody remember that? Bloody hell, these Hollywood people. He can't improvise, or and just be honest and sincere. Like, I think it's bullshit what you made here, actually, because you have to sit pretty close to this TV, because it's like Cinerama, only not. Because Cinerama would be a slightly deeper curve, whereas these Samsungs were kind of like that sort of angle. My dad had one of those, and I don't like it, because I tried to explain. You got to sit nearer to it to get that, and it's really designed as a gimmick or for certain movies that no longer hardly exist, or well, they do exist, they hardly play. They even had that effect smiley vision on a bloody fucking few movies, like How the West Is One or something, and I'm thinking, fuck you, no, I'm not buying that. No way. That's a total gimmick. If you want to duplicate that effect with video projectors, it's not cheap. Even though you can make it cheap, get some cheap video projectors that are good, and so that you've got a projector in the middle for the front part of the image, and then a projector for this side on the left for the right image, and a projector on the right side for the left side image. And then you got to put in a curved screen in your room, and that's not easy. Depending on, it wouldn't work in my room. It wouldn't work. It just looks. It just wouldn't work, because I would have to sit pretty near to it. I'd have to have a front row. If I'm sat at the back, it just doesn't look right. Just as if I would look at the Odeon downtown, it kind of looks okay-ish in the middle, but it didn't look right. But when you sat in the front row, even though they modified the screen width, when they went from Cinerama 70, which got phased out, I think, 90, and then they thought, fuck it, fucking hell, there's another format that's gone kaput. We'll have to put 35mm in now, because we're going to hardly use this projector for 70mm use. It's no use now. We're not going to be showing. But 70mm prints, regular 70mm was still available. I don't know why they ditched it, but that's the word, apparently. That's the word. I would have only been 2 at the time, so I wouldn't know. But I understand the theory and the principle and the behind it. But seeing Star Wars in the Cinerama curve screen and up front, wow, that's cool. But you get a distortion image, particularly when the end credits roll, because they're all straight, and you see this slight curve bending. That doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me. I've seen worse with these pictures, people showing this 4DX crap, and it looks totally, the image is going down the sidewalls, and it looks totally, knackered. It looks totally, utterly knackered. You'd have to be I can only imagine people going seeing a movie in it once and never going back again, because it's like, fucking hell. You can imagine the distortion on the eye and thinking, fuck, it's just distracting, because it's unnaturally unnatural. We don't see that in the real world. If I put a cardboard box over my head and add a little narrow slot, make it to that angle, and then I make another one that's a little bit wider and then curved slightly, like a panorama effect, and then walking down the road with that sort of in my